Call the meeting to order.
Call the meeting to order. It's 5:35. And the chair is absent temporarily, so I'm going to ask him to fill his big shoes until he comes in. The first item of business we want to talk about is John about the co-chair, is that?
Correct. So, in absence, our chairman is going to be late or not here at all today, depending on his work schedule. The selectman secretary said we can make a co-chair just by agreeing among ourselves. So I'm going to make a motion that we nominate Rick Smith as the co-chair of the Shellfish Advisory Committee.
I'll
So,
second that.
and any discussion?
Fine with me.
Then, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? It's unanimous. Is anybody keeping notes? Okay. Okay, so the first order of business is you're running the show, correct?
Accept minutes. Okay, having said that, before we get into the agenda, thank you. Hurry up, Ron. Come in. Before we get into that, John, you wanted to talk a little bit about Laura?
Yes, I wanted to first of all thank her for her service for 15 or 20 years, faithful service, bringing, oh, he made it. And I wanted to thank her personally, I wanted to thank her as a group, and I also would like to nominate her as a associate member when she's here, and her schedule is, I'm not sure what her schedule is, but she can't be here all the year. So I'd like to be able to have her sit at the table, participate in all the discussions, and as an associate member, it's a non-voting position, but otherwise everything would stay the same. So that's a question for you, and you can take your time to answer it.
Yes.
Okay, so now we have
Great.
an associate member.
No, it's not. We need a second.
Oh, yeah, okay, we need a motion.
I'll make a motion to accept Dora Milliken as an associate member of the Westport Shellfish Advisory Board whenever she's available to attend any meetings.
I'll second
And
All in favor?
that. Aye.
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 Thank you.
Speech? No speech. Ron, I guess we'll turn the chairmanship back to you.
Okay, I passed out those agendas. I didn't bring them.
yeah, they're passed around.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is to approve the minutes from last
Don't do the minutes if you want to refer to it.
from the last meeting. Motion to approve the minutes for the last meeting.
I'll make a motion to, or I'll second, I'll second the motion. I'll make the motion that we approve the minutes of the last meeting.
I'll second it.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
Okay, the first thing on the agenda is an update from the services.
Sure. How you doing, Ron? Hello to everybody else. We are in full swing right now with our relay. To date, we have 534 and a half bushels planted into Half Moon Flat. I believe we're planting 3 areas. We have Half Moon Flat, we have Ram Island, and then I think we're gonna plant Shiprock to Sunk Rock again. If anybody would like to change that, we would have to let the Division of Marine Fisheries know so they could make a closure in an area, and then we would start counting again. Having talked to the Division of Marine Fisheries about the relay, they used to want to have the quahogs sit in the relay area for over a year if they were planted after June 15th, and I think 2 or 3 years now that has not happened. So it seems like that's probably not going to happen again because there was a big rush of getting quahogs in the area before June 15th, specifically in the area of Half Moon Flat, the area that we like to open up sometime in early December. You call it Christmas money. I call it a lot of clams. I don't know. Quahogs. Terrible joke. Sorry. It's kind of stuffy in here. But anyway, so we have the relay rolling. The dredge captain was able to get his first check for startup money, and we're rolling right through. At this point in time, on May 16th, we received over 3.3 inches of rain, and that has closed us down for, until the state can come back out and retest the waters to open the 2/10 area, the 1-inch area. So right now we have a closure, and we have the state scheduled on this coming Wednesday, whatever day that is, June something. And 5th? Yeah. June 5th, 9 o'clock, we're gonna go and do a full run of the river, conditional, unconditional. If it's a nice day, we can go out the mouth and get the areas, 3 areas out in front of Horseneck. Other than that, it's just business as usual. Is there any other updates or anything that anybody's burning?
Maybe one of the things we can skip to, since we're talking about the relays, item number 6, you had any thoughts on that? That'd be opening up the Great Island relay area.
Sure. Well, we want to hit a time in which the market is good. I do have a concern in the area because some of that relay is planted within the town's channel, and when summer gets really busy and we are going to have 20 boats digging in the channel, it could be interesting.
Is that on the west side, Chris?
It is from the line of Gunning Island to Great Island, which
Yeah.
demarcates the 2/10 and 1 inch. So from that line to the tip of Upper Spectacle Island,
What's the big area?
it's a big area. There's some stuff that's put on top, but a lot of it goes in the channel. So, did you have a feeling?
Well, there's the 2 marketing experts over there that would,
I believe it should, at whatever point, if we open Half Moon Flat, as we normally do, middle of December, that usually dries up in February. So I'm thinking the first, second week of February. I don't know how the dates fall, but
When will that be ready to go, Chris?
Right now.
Oh, it's ready now.
Yeah, everything we planted last year had tests done, meat samples, water samples, and everything's ready to go. So it's our job to open it at will, but we don't want to open everything too soon and then say, well, what do we have left?
Yeah.
And we say, oh no, we ate all the Oreos, I'm sorry.
Chris, can we just back up?
Sure.
If we planted it before 6/15, you don't need the 1 year according to DMF.
I don't think that in talking to the Division of Marine Fisheries, I don't think that is a line that they're drawing hard in the sand, because it was a line that let go. And a lot of towns are behind right now, especially in relay activity. They've done Westport, and I think one other town.
Wellfleet.
Wellfleet, yeah.
So the 6/15 date is kind of out of play.
It is, because when the other towns finally get the relay, it's probably going to be after June 15th, and then they're looking to open like we do in the late fall, winter. So that's what we're looking at with that whole thing.
I know early fall to Thanksgiving, the market's really weak. We found out this year, as a result of influx of aquaculture product, early spring until now, and it's still now, is weak. So if we do this in February, and then we'd have Shiprock and Reserve after that, instead of doing it in May, do it in June.
What have you got for the Christmas money?
Graham Island. No, I mean.
Half Moon Flat.
Yeah, Half Moon Flat.
Yeah, that's
Half
been,
Moon
that,
Flat will go after Thanksgiving sometime.
middle of December preferably.
Yeah, that's usually the time that
Christmas
would
money.
open, the Christmas.
And the market's strong.
Yeah.
We're seeing more and more that aquaculture affects the market and the price. I mean,
Yep.
you probably see it in salmons.
I think waiting till February is a good idea. I was prepared to say, well, how does August 15th sound or something to that effect? And I think it's good to.
I don't
to-
think
to-
anybody wants to be in there in the summer.
No, 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 no,
In the summer last time.
I know, I think all of us almost got run down at one point in time out there. At Great Island in the summertime.
It's somehow we gotta relay ahead and we kind of, have this in a, just sitting there. But I don't think it's a good, I mean, for instance, David Road and Judy's Island right now, there's product left, but because of the rain delays, so much rain, that it just limited harvesting. But in middle of April, my guy just said, you can't bring any cogs in for 2 weeks. I can't sell them. I think your guy had the same problem.
Yeah.
Other than Valentine's Day, what else is going on in February?
Nothing.
But there's still a strong market because there's not aquaculture product around,
Sure.
and we're not that big a dent.
So we either,
But when it's loaded, we are a big dent.
What do we got going on in the fall?
We don't want to open it in the fall. Twice we've opened in the fall, flooded the market, got shut off. Middle of
We don't
September.
have anything in the fall, though, correct?
No, we've avoided opening in the fall.
There's so much agriculture.
Yeah,
either February or the end of May, because I'm sure stuff's gonna start picking up now, right?
But he's talking about boat
Market's
traffic, and
slowing down.
and I agree that the boat traffic, that's a tough place in the summer, because
The
they all,
market is still slow now,
Yeah.
yeah.
unfortunately.
Okay, shoot for February.
We'll probably have another meeting between now and then if we need to fine tune it.
It's just that people ask all the time.
Do you want to open it on a Saturday? Or do you want to, we've been opening them on Tuesdays? A soft
Saturday-
opening, which is always good, but
Do we just want to come up with a tentative date, like the first Tuesday in February or whatever it is? We have
I'd wait till the second or even third.
Third, because you have vacation for schools. Whatever that is.
Well, there's a few kids that go now, high school kids and the college kids.
So,
So you want to do the school, vacation week?
What do you got for the second Tuesday in February?
that's the 11th,
And what's the next one?
18.
So let's pick either the 11th or the 18th would be my
Let's tentatively
suggestion.
set it for the 11th, that way we can grab Valentine's,
Yep,
and if we
okay.
need to move it, we can.
yeah.
And
Yeah,
There
that
you go.
makes sense.
That opens it for school vacation,
Yeah,
for the school licensing.
yeah. So,
Tentatively,
Great Allen,
February 11th.
Yeah, that's in
relay,
a rainy area, so if it keeps up
yeah.
and liberal.
Hopefully.
Well, if it's like this year,
Hopefully it's snow.
Hopefully
So
it'll
we're
be
looking at
snow.
2/11/25.
It's actually 25, yeah.
11 February 2025. Okay.
Okay, next on the agenda is, we're gonna go over this again, is what do we gotta do to straighten out this, the aquaculture licensees for expiration and regarding debt of the licensee?
Sure. We had, legal took a look at this, and I think everybody on the advisory committee did get an email about what the outcome was on that. Is that true?
Yes.
Just to give it to you in a nutshell, it is up to the select board to make that decision, to either renew the license.
I think it said renew, transfer, deny. That's-
Basically, so it's left in the select board's court to then make
Issue
that. to make-
Licensing authority or something like that.
Yes. I talked to Paula, and just because Paula is very helpful in pushing this stuff through and trying to figure out the right things to do, because we don't well, at least I don't want to, and I think the collective, we don't want to go before the select board unprepared or have things that are missing. And so in talking with her, it seems that we needed to have a hearing for this license, whatever the select board is going to deny, approve, transfer, whatever they're going to do. There needs to be an open forum for that. So we need to have one of those.
It was explained to me that we have to request a public hearing,
Yes.
which means 2 weeks before the selectmen's meeting, we have to go to Paula, or Hartnett, town administrator, and request a public hearing, and they advertise what's gonna be on the agenda. That also applied to fee increases, additional licenses that we've been talking about. And she said it's a 10 to 2 week process before that goes to an advertising. At that point, it could go on the selectmen's agenda as a public hearing as opposed to,
So we have to put out 2 weeks in advance.
right, and we also have to go to the town,
Make notice so that anyone who wants to attend can attend the meeting.
yes,
So it's pretty clear in the agriculture rules, under section 9.3, it says granted, transferred, or renewed after public hearing. John and I spoke with Paula, and Paula said that the public hearing is in fact a select board's meeting. That'll answer that, so that, those people come forward. We have to post it in 3 or more public places and publish in the local newspaper at least 10 days prior to the date and time of the hearing. Then it goes into the parameter of the applicant, what the applicant needs to provide. It's here, so the applicant is, I'm not gonna read it, but the applicant's responsible for reading this. And then if you go on 9.3, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, it goes on like that. The applicant also has to notify the abutters, whoever abuts the property, where he puts the lease, of the lease. So that's on them, but I mean, I think our
That doesn't
responsibility.
make much sense.
Huh?
That doesn't make much sense, but.
So I guess if you put it in the cages right
that
now,
was written up,
that's-
copied from a state regulations.
I
This is-
understand.
So that's word for word for chapter 130.
Right out of
Oh, I
130.
get it.
So I think our responsibility is post it in public place, publish in a local newspaper 10 days prior to, and Paula will help us with that.
Sure.
Get that done. So, and there was a lot of confusion, and Paula squared it away for us, that a public hearing is not just a hearing over there. A public hearing is a board
Meeting,
select board's meeting.
but it's posted.
It's
It's
posted.
pretty much the only
And
difference.
that person, whoever's granting the transfer or renewal, has to come here and sit present his case. This is their case.
So we've got stuff on the agenda tonight that also are going to request a public hearing, so we'll just get that stuff to Paul, the sooner the better. If they can make the deadline with the shorelines on Monday, it could go before the selectmen on the 17th would be their next meeting of June.
We're within the 48 hours, so we can't make Monday's meeting, so we have to go to the 17th.
Right.
Up to the 17th.
But you're still going to go through the waiting period of the public hearing process.
In the 10
So-
days in the newspaper.
Right.
Yeah, but we can do that.
So that would go through, if we can get it in for Monday's deadline,
It'll go on the 17th.
so we'll have to go to her tomorrow and request that, but there's 2 or 3 other things. One was registered letters to
Anyone on the waiting list?
waiting list, and they felt that they should receive a registered letter. They would take care of that. They would take care of the public
The
hearing.
town
and
takes
notice-
care of that?
Yep, that's what they said.
This is what Paula said, that she would take care of
Yeah.
that? Wonderful.
Well, is
Yeah.
it Tim Hartnett? What's his name?
Jim.
Yeah.
Jim Hartnett, excuse me.
I mean, they have a form, so it's
Because they must have gone through the abutter process when they established that. Do
That
we
was-
know what,
that-
because that sounds like a lot of gray paint.
It was just what it was gray paint.
Yeah.
yeah.
And when they tried to put aquaculture sites over on the west side of the West Channel, one of the persons complained about as an abutter, but the rest of them, I think this has to be a certain, because of the distance, the only part of the abutter thing that was addressed was by the Conservation Commission. They just rubber stamped it.
Sure.
I mean, I think that's a purpose of a public hearing, in case anybody needs it.
Somebody stand up and be counted.
Yeah.
Really?
Bring it forward and bring it out in the open.
Yeah, if you own property somewhere in the river, theoretically, I guess you're a abutter, right?
Yes. Okay.
We all set on that discussion?
I think
Yeah,
that's all pretty straightforward. It's all
So
just a
now the
matter of
second thing
procedure.
that they asked us to do is when the selectmen have to decide, they'd like some kind of recommendation, what we thought would be, because it can be transferred, renewed, or denied, and they wanted us to weigh in because the way the rules are written, the aquaculture site lease ends and is now going to be reassigned. Therefore, it can go to the next of kin or the waiting list, depending on how the selectmen feel. And they wanted us to recommend what we felt was, what was our feeling on that.
They get the final say, but they want to know what we think.
Yeah, exactly.
Okay.
So,
Are we going
but,
to bring that up in another meeting?
no, we'll bring it up right now.
Yeah, let's look
Okay.
it up.
And I'll keep the floor for a second longer. My feeling was, this is a standard landlord-tenant agreement. If there's an existing person in your property with a lease, and it's being run great, why would you want to bring in somebody new and start over from scratch? So my feeling was it would stay within the next of kin and be run the same. There's 10 people on the waiting list. They'll get registered letters. If they object or want to make their case, they can do it before the selectmen. Me personally, that's how I feel, that it should stay with the next of kin if that's what they so choose to do as a first choice. And then go to the, because if we get a new person, we're required to do financial background check, criminal background check, a lot of things. And then the person has to get up and running again. And so they want to have financial responsibility for the process, because the first year or two of aquaculture is a hit in the pocketbook, not very profitable. So that would be involved if we took on a new person. So, like I said, my recommendation was that it stays with the next of kin.
I go along with that too. The two of them, Dusom and Carrion, both running smooth.
Well, this isn't Carrion's lease. This is John Finley's lease.
Yeah.
And this is going to John Finley's wife. This is not Carrion's we're talking about. That got us confused a little before, but what we're talking about is John Finley's lease.
I'm a little confused because the bylaws speak to the waiting list. So are you saying at the conclusion?
Well, that has to be considered, and they should be notified that there's a lease expiring.
Right.
The selectmen will make that decision.
And then the selectmen, this is the chapter 30, the legal opinion you got, you called the aquaculture guy, he referred you, the head of the aquaculture of the state of Mass, Division of Marine Fisheries, also said, he referred you to chapter 130, 57 and 58, or 57 and 59, and it was all worded the same way.
Yeah.
And so,
My only concern was that there was a waiting list and we took money to be on the waiting list and the checks were cashed. As long as that's addressed, I don't really care who gets the lease. I don't care if it's the leaseholder, the leaseholder's brother, or a brand-new person. I just wanted to make sure that no steps were circumvented since we took money from people in cash checks in good faith that they were next on the list.
Yeah. Well, they're gonna
So
get
as
paid
long as
for
the selectmen feel comfortable in notifying those people and having those people, giving those people an opportunity, that list is so old, in my opinion, that list is so old that none of those people are gonna come forward. I don't think it's gonna be a problem
well,
with that.
they didn't when Jasom's third lease went out to
So I
Reese.
think as long as our bases are covered legal, I have no issue with the license going to the next of kin. I have no issue with that at all.
So.
I have no issue with
So
it going to the next person on the list. or
what's your
whatever the
confusion
selectmen
point,
decide.
Rick? What are you confused about?
Well,
Use
it's
your
very
words.
specific. It says no automatic transfers of a license shall take place. So it says the licensing authority, which we know is a board of select board, shall review the license, blah, blah, blah. But we have a waiting list. So I think, let me just throw this out. What do you think about reviewing the waiting list, notifying everybody on the waiting list by registered letter? If they don't respond, we'll fulfill the $100 obligation. If they do respond, let them come and plead their case in front of the board.
And let the
Then the
licensing
board
board make the decision.
Makes the decision. Now, if Rick Smith has a very profitable business out there, I'm gonna come here and I'm gonna lay that in front of the Board of Selectmen. And if Joe Jones comes in here and says, I wanna get into this, the selectmen have to make a decision. I mean, I think that comports with the statute, with the section 17. We all know what's gonna happen. I mean,
Well, I know.
would skip, most of that waiting list is gonna be dissolved.
I would say, Rick, not to interrupt, but I would say providing, I mean, we have to come up with a Shellfish Advisory Board recommendation. And I think that's a very slippery slope. But I think that as long as there's nobody on the waiting list that wants to get into it, then my recommendation is to allow
Transfer-
the transfer to go
To the
through.
next of kin and
If
set.
there is somebody that raises a stink and says, my name's been on the list, I gave my money, I've been waiting 10 years, now finally it's my turn, then that's up to the select board to hear both sides and then rule.
What do you think, Bill? You,
I don't think that we
Well,
as a
wait a
board,
minute.
I don't think that we as a board should go one way or the other. I think that what we have is a nice operation that's being run professionally and done very well. So we're happy and have no objections with that. But we also don't know what anyone else who wants to brings to the table. So I think that we should just, as a board, this is just my opinion, we as a board should say, as long as all the i's are dotted and t's are crossed, then we don't mind who it is.
Well, I believe
Selectmen can make the
the
decision.
registered letters and the public notice should address
Right.
that part of
What do
it.
we do if that registered letters are sent out to 10 people and 2 people come up and they both say,
Well, that's
Okay.
what,
it's my turn?
they,
So what's our recommendation in that case?
we have
Is
to
our
make a,
recommendation in that case to let the guy who has it?
our
have it?
recommendation is renew, transfer, or deny. We can only make a recommendation. Those are the 3 choices we have.
Don't they have to come up with a $250,000 bond if they were granted that lease as well?
You buy an insurance policy.
Yeah.
But not everybody can do that.
Not everybody can do that. That's one of the things about financial considerations when you issue a lease.
I would say there's 2 things here. I'm a big fan of Westport Sea Farms. I don't know much about the other operation, but from my view, they're both professionally run. And why wouldn't the town grant them another extension? My biggest concern is this whole next of kin issue. So if it gets passed from father to son or mother to daughter, and it can go another generation, don't they?
No, it can't.
Well, what
Because
stops that?
state regulations say at the end of 15 years, it has to be completely torn up and reapplied for, consideration given to the active leaseholder.
So the next of kin is a temporary
Only
fix.
because of the death in the family.
Only because of the.
Strictly a death
Of the
penalty.
licensee.
Right, and it specifically says son, daughter,
Brother, sister.
yeah.
Mother, father, brother, and or sister of the deceased. But they can only go for, according to 17.6, they can only go for, under the same conditions and rules and regulations, for the balance of the unexpired term or 1 year, whichever is longer. So that pretty much.
So we've got 2 cases. One is pressing now because of the expired lease. The second one, it will be coming up when that lease expires, same circumstances.
I agree with you, Billy.
Well, I mean, if that's the case.
We've never
then you've
faced
got-
this
You've
before.
got checks and balances
Right.
in there.
We have a great operation running right now that's good for the river, good for the town, good for everybody. But we also have an obligation to notify the
Sure.
people on the list. And if they default, if they choose not to answer or whatever, then they forfeit their $100. And that gets us in the town off the hook.
They're not taken off the list, though. Would they be
But
taken
why
off the
not?
list?
Why not? They haven't responded to a
This is
registered
my,
letter.
that
I
was
think
my,
if you could put that in the wording of the letter, that if you
that was my
don't
next-
respond to this letter, you will be removed from the list. If you
Right.
wish to continue to be on the list,
I
please let
believe
us
that
know.
would
I
have,
think that's a
Suppose you
good,
could say,
I believe that'd have to
"I'm
go to a
ready right now,
bylaw
I'd like to
change."
remain on the list for
Sure.
the next time, but I think that should be addressed, because what we have here is we have a dusty list.
yeah.
And I think that
We-
if we send out 10 letters and only 2 people respond, and one of those 2 people says, I just wanted to let you know I'm not ready, but I'm still interested, fine.
They may
But I
not
think
have
we
the
should
bond.
try and clean the list up.
Exactly. They may not have.
I don't know how we can do that without going through the whole deal of coming up with a new set of regulations.
But I mean, what's the law say on you gave $100 and you're on the waiting list and you've been tried to be notified and
You didn't respond, so that's it, you leave it there. That's the end of it.
what happens the next time?
If they want to put their name in, they can.
But what happens when that lease expires? Let's just say nobody shows
Then-
up this time, and then it goes they transfer it to the next of kin, and then in 2 years, the lease expires, and they come back up. Now we got all those same deadbeats that never came back and said anything, they
Well,
all be notified again?
I wouldn't call them deadbeats, they put the $100 up, they showed an interest at the time, and when, over in the West Branch, the kid who wanted to start an aquaculture site had to go on the waiting list, submit his $100. They sent out registered letters. He was the only one who responded, so it was simple.
Yeah,
But he has to go through
The
the
question
same,
still remains the same. What happens to the people on the list that don't respond?
they stay on the list. Because
Forever?
unless you give them the
Well,
money back, I don't see
The
how you.
$100 would then put you on a perpetual list.
Yeah,
In essence, that's what's
right.
happening.
But that doesn't give you any other rights than if a license, a lease site becomes available, you could throw your name in the hat. That's all it gives you the right as, being on the waiting list.
Then there's the parameters.
Then there's all the stuff we're going through right now.
I mean, that way.
I mean, it would clean up a lot of things, but this was something, when the rules and regulations came out, the state said you have to do this, this, and this way, and you have home rules to do it according to what applies in Westport.
I think an effort should be made after this selectmen's meeting. An effort should be made, I don't know who should make the effort. We should discuss it with the selectmen and discuss it with town council. But I think an effort should be made to contact the people on that list and say, do you want to remain on that list?
Well, how do you, how do you, if they don't respond to a registered letter, I don't know what more you can do. It's just, and by staying on the list, there's nothing in the clauses without making new laws, new rules, and going through town council and going through public hearings
So if you're not
to change
ready-
that.
If you're not ready to get into aquaculture, just ignore the registered letter and ignore everything that's going on, and you.
Well,
stay
that's
on the
what's been
list.
going on up until now.
But we haven't had any turnover up until now.
This is, yes, this is the first
So
time.
I think
This is it.
We've sent registered letters out, I believe, one time to try to clear.
One time for
one time
Reese's
To
lease.
try and
to,
clean it
to
up.
try to clean it up a little bit. At no point in time did, I'm not sure if anybody came off the list at that time. There was one person removed by the list, and that was by Gary Sherman years ago.
And that was because he had a felony,
Yes.
because they do a
Yes,
criminal
that was,
background
that's a,
check on
that's a
that.
list removal.
I
Right.
mean, the letter could be very simple. All I could say, we hereby notify, I'm paraphrasing, hereby notify you that there will be a hearing on X and Y, Z date for the transfer of license. You know, they have a right to be here. If we
Sure.
notify them that they have a right to be here, that's the end of it.
That's the end of our responsibility.
That are gonna come off that list who will not, if they don't respond, fine. If they're deceased, they're not gonna respond either, so we don't worry about them, they're gone.
Why
But
don't,
those who are still on that list have a right to be here, and I think that's our responsibility, and I think that's what's hidden in these rules, is that we notify them there's gonna be a hearing on a license because of the death of a licensee, and if you're interested, you put your $100 up, you're more than welcome to attend. You don't wanna come.
why can't we give them three choices? We send them a registered letter, we say.
Because that's
Box
already
A,
in the,
just listen.
that's already in the
Box A
books.
says, yes, I'm interested and I want to be considered for the lease area. Box 2 says, I'm not ready at this time, but I'd like to remain on the list. And box 3 says, I'm not interested anymore,
All
take
right,
me
so,
off the
so,
list.
so suppose they don't respond at all, we've still got their
Well,
$100
then we're
bucks.
gonna have to leave them on the list, but I mean, we might be able
But
to get
what's
3
the
people that
difference?
say, hey, listen, I've decided against this. It's been 12 years now and I'm not
Well,
interested
there's two
anymore.
people I know on the list that aren't even around here anymore, couldn't care less. But I mean,
Well,
what do you-
how about us?
but they have a right to, if they came back.
Does the town have an example in Paula's office that a similar situation with a license or waiting list for a license has happened? So we have a pre-existing, we have like a pre-existing template to say,
I don't think
we
precedent
took their
is-
money, this is like, they're gonna stay on the list and this is how we do it. Because I think Paula would probably have some clarity on that.
The way we wrote it, there was no precedent set. We were
There was
town of
the first.
Westport getting into the aquaculture.
Yeah.
This is the way we wanted it. And the idea was, it was open to the public, and there were only X amount of them. Anybody who didn't make the, want to start up, were on the waiting list. If they chose to put up their money. And that's how it, but to take that and tear it up, you're gonna have to give them their money back. It's the only way. I don't see any other way. And then you're also gonna have to go to town
We
council
have
and
to
go
offer
to,
them a method to forfeit that by saying in that registered letter, I no longer am interested. I think at that point, they forfeit the 100.
I don't even know if that's legal. But that'd be something for town council to decide.
That could open up a can of worms, because when they put the $100, it should have been a disclaimer in there that says.
When they gave the $100, we should have given
You
them,
may forfeit it. So I would think, just for simplicity, we send them out a letter, we say that you're on the list, the waiting list. There's going to be a meeting on X, Y, and Z date. If you wish to consider your application for an aquaculture license or a transfer license, be it, basically.
That may be the simplest.
And
way.
then that
I think
way,
that's the simplest
that's
solution.
simple, it's plain, and if nobody shows up, fine. If somebody shows up, let them plead their case. We all know what a great operation we have, run by good people for the community. And we all know that the select board is going to have to ask questions, ask about investment, ask that new person, that new applicant who's on the waiting list, can they prove, do they have the financial wherewithal, do they have the insurance, do they have the gear to put in the rear, are they ready to go? If the answer to any of those questions is no, it's kind of a default to the current licensee, I would think. So I mean, I'm just out of simplicity, I would send them all letters saying, we're gonna have a hearing.
I think we should run that by Paula and Jim, see what they think.
Town
Yeah.
council should at least weigh in on
Well,
that.
when Reese applied, we did that. We ran it by, it wasn't Paula at the time, but at the time it was Tim King and
Lucy
somebody.
and Tim, yeah.
And then town council didn't get involved. In their legal opinion, they didn't get involved in the wait list either, because it's a little separate thing. As soon as we accepted money for it, that was, that made it a contract.
Yeah, I mean, for example, for Area B, the 88 bridge to the mouth of the river, for people getting moorings, that list renews yearly. January 1, if you're still hot to trot and you want to get in there, you get a letter into
But you
me.
didn't put money up.
But there was no money into it. If
'Cause I
we
remember
could
that
change
we
the
changed that,
regulation,
So it was easy to change that.
it was easy to change that.
Putting $100 in,
It changes everything.
but we wanted a commitment to people who were serious. But we wanted it open to the public. That was how we
There's no
developed it.
disclaimer on what happens to your money once you make that deposit into the town. There's no disclaimer at all. So the town has taken their money, and I don't think it's up to us to decide what the town should do about their money. We should just, like Skip says, we should just make a recommendation and to the board and go forward from there.
Yeah, leave it in their lap.
Yeah, exactly.
Let
I mean,
them
that's
make
your
the
job.
decision.
We're not the licensing authority.
Exactly, we're not.
We're the-
That's right, I
So,
agree.
so the recommendation, Rick, is strictly to do with the transfer of the lease
Upon the death.
upon death. So we're to say yea or nay on that.
Now, at the end of 15 years, the leases expire just by state mandate, and they have to reapply, and they have preferences to what those.
This particular
It was
lease
late-
we're
it's late-
talking about, I think it expires when? It's got 3 or 4 or 5 more years on it, doesn't it?
Which one?
The lease in question that we're talking about.
No, it expires now.
August.
Oh, so it does expire now.
Well, that's with the 60-day
Well-
extension.
The first lease is.
But
It's
are we
already-
gonna give them a year after that?
That's the, no,
No,
the year
that's
is,
the-
ends
that's
in
when it's
August.
over.
Yeah, so it'll be a 3-year renewal.
The year ends on the death date of the licensee, which is in August. So we need to get this,
Oh, I
we need to get this
So it's
together.
been a year
Yeah,
and
well-
ASAP. We
It's
need to
been a
get this
year in
together
August, right?
ASAP.
Okay.
I mean, our timing's, we're good, we're not putting this off till last minute. And then also in either the state 130, might be in ours too, there's a 60-day grace period that applies for a deceased.
I mean, our responsibility is to get it in front of the licensing authority ASAP.
Right, and we have to go through a process. I didn't realize how complicated it was until the last 3 or 4 months, but.
It's going to get interesting. This is going to be our shakedown cruise for doing this, because you will see this again with, we have one in the river, or the first one's going to be out off of Gooseberry. There's going to be one in
See,
the
there's
east
no
branch
waiting
of the
list for the
river.
out,
Well,
Yeah, that should go.
well, I'm just,
there's no waiting list for out there.
we unfortunately had two, we'll just say patriarchs of the
Leaseholders.
leaseholders pass away within months of each other. So we're going to see this again. We're going to see this again in the river. We're going to see this again for Michael Chisum. He has one
He was,
Also-
he was allowed a transfer to his next of kin.
to his next of kin.
Well, to his.
But it's in the same boat that we're trying to
It's
figure out
exactly the
right
same
now.
thing.
So we're going to have to do,
We're gonna have to go through the
we're
same
going
thing.
to have to do the
but
25 acres outside, the one, just
no,
for
I
the
don't
Fenley
believe we have to
family.
do with the 25 acres, because there's no waiting list for the 25 acres
That
outside.
should just renew.
That should
That's
just,
the-
that should just renew.
Okay, well, that's,
Subject to a hearing when nobody comes to.
Yeah, well,
A hearing.
this is what we're talking about though right now. is
there's no
25
waiting list, so
The
nobody
next-
has, can challenge.
The next thing that's going to expire is the 25 acres outside, and that's what we're doing.
In addition to the river.
That's the first one to expire,
Which one?
the 25 acres outside.
Oh, I thought it was the river.
I don't believe so.
Oh, there's no
don't believe
waiting
so.
list on that. That's completely really
Well,
out of our hands.
here's some more gray paint. The waiting list for aquaculture site where? We have an aquaculture site, where does it say that the 25 acres isn't?
Well, we defined it in 2 areas. One is in the river,
Sure.
1-acre sites, and the other is east of Gooseberry, 25-acre sites.
Okay,
There were 6 sites out there, there were only 3 takers, and so there's 3 extra sites there anytime anybody wants. So there's no waiting list applies out there.
so we should probably double check to see what exactly we're talking about. As I'm talking with Paula, I was thinking that it was maybe the 25 acre site was the first to expire offshore.
Paula gave me the wait list, and there's no indicator on here what area it responds to.
Well, it's not gonna be on the wait, it's not gonna be on the waiting list.
Maybe they
It's-
don't even
it's gonna
have
be
it.
on the
Think
active
it would
sites.
be though, wouldn't you?
Well, it
You
should.
would-
Well, I don't know.
Waiting list would designate
It might not even be in the records. This is something that should be addressed.
Well, that's my point. There's certain people on here on this waiting list, but it doesn't say what they're waiting for.
So that's another problem. So we
Well,
say,
no,
you
there's,
say that
no,
there's
no,
no
no,
waiting
no,
list.
there's no waiting list.
Well, wait a minute. You
Anybody
say
on the
that-
list can get a 25 acre right now today.
That's right.
No,
This waiting
that's
list-
expired.
This waiting list, if it
The
doesn't.
25 acres are
it
expired.
I know, we have to
say-
go through the state process
It's,
again
yeah,
to dredge it.
That waiting list doesn't say what they're waiting for, then that means all inclusive.
That means any
That means
agriculture.
any site that comes up.
yes.
Right.
they're-
That's what I'm thinking that means,
So-
because it's not
So we
defined.
should probably have had, what we should have done was we should have had river and outside the river waiting lists.
Well, I'm just trying to get the big picture of everything.
Yeah.
We have 2 deceased people. In my mind, we have, in the Fenley family, we have an 25 acre outside, we have a 1 acre inside. We have a down weller on the dock I believe. There's a license for that.
That didn't go through us at all. I don't.
Okay,
I don't even know- I don't
I'm
even
just
know how
trying
that
to,
works.
I'm just giving everything that
No, I know, but
we're
that's on
wrapped
the,
around.
that's on the license, the lease stuff.
And then we have Michael Jassoom's 1 acre site in the West Branch. So we're gonna see this again, and let's make it smooth. because
Well,
this is getting, I mean,
I
we're gonna
think
make it smooth by going to the select board and saying, here's what we have a recommendation, you are the licensing authority, let's move forward with anything.
I think it's quite clear that,
Sure, but I just want everybody to wrap their head around this, so we
well,
have a
there's a lot
downwell
to wrap
site.
your head around.
There's a
Yeah,
lot, there's a
let's
lot
get
of
the
stuff
first
here.
one right.
Oh, absolutely, because
We can
we're gonna
just
see
stream
this
through
again.
it.
This is something, it's like the test taking. You're gonna see this again.
Yeah.
You know, so,
Because we're coming up on the
But if we
expiration.
get kind of a system in place right now,
yep.
the public hearing, the registered letters, blah, 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 and
It would be nice to get everything in
And-
line, but ultimately what's going to happen is every site or license first site or downweller site or whatever site we're looking at, it's gonna be a case-by-case basis. Where we have what we need to do the process of having the public hearing and all of this kind of stuff, but it's case by case. If you are gonna have 10 violations in the course of a year, do you know what the recommendation is gonna be? Not favorable. And so this is where you say, oh, it's one size fits all. Well, no, it's a case by case, site by site to say who
License
owns
authority
it, what kind of
deny a
like
license.
violations have they had? Have they been good? Have they been unproductive? Very productive? Are they somebody that the state wants to come in and say, wow, this is run so great, this should be the model for the whole state? You know,
I've heard that.
yeah, so these are the
Checking
kinds of
down the
questions
tape.
that we have to ask, but I just want to make sure that everybody gets their head wrapped around all of the things that we have to do. And let's make it streamlined, let's make it clean, but then also
So
say it's
the
case,
only
it's
thing
case
is,
by
we
case.
don't have kind of like in some kind of writing for home rule part of the regulations is an inside the river, outside the river.
No, and I'll tell you,
And those 6 sites that were out there, 3 of them the state take away from you after a certain amount of time because they're abandoned, nobody wanted them.
yes, they would have to be
We could
resurveyed.
we could get that in play again if somebody wanted to do an outside.
So just to go to what Chris was saying, that every case is gonna be,
It's a case by case basis. It's a license by license basis. Are you, you know, have you been using the license good, or have you been using the license and you have many violations?
Yeah,
So
that should count for something.
how do you set that criteria? Because chapter 130-65 is very specific about a annual report. Do we get those reports from the Shellfish Aquaculture sites, owners?
There are reports that are done, but there's some information that I believe that isn't hidden, that is hidden because we don't have 3 or more businesses running. I think we have 2 businesses running. There's,
Businesses
never
or
seen-
licenses?
No, businesses.
This
No,
has always been
businesses.
a craw for me because for us to determine, make a recommendation, we should have some kind of a business model. We don't have to have the exact numbers. When it first started, we didn't get reports. You weren't even there then. And the state said, and it wasn't chapter 130 or something, because there's only 2 entities, they didn't want to have exposed financial information. It was something
Something like
loosely
that.
worded like
Yeah.
that. But how many cages do you need to start and be profitable? That's something we'd have to consider if we recommended a new person. We don't have that information, and we probably should get it on an annual basis. It's required.
if we could, I mean, we can talk to the
No, I don't
state
think
again
it's a
to see
matter
what-
if we could, it's in the regulations.
Statute.
It's a statute.
130-65.
Yeah.
So, having said that, Chris, could we maybe check with DF and find out if they have a form? Guarantee they have a form.
Oh, sure.
State likes everything
Oh, the
easy.
state's got a form for everything.
If they have a form, then that's the information we can present or recommend the select board review.
This is,
Get that form.
this is loose ends that would never address it, it's
Yeah.
never come up, so we've just
But
never
we
been.
wanna give them the tools too to make
Right.
an informed decision, so that,
Yeah,
you know,
but I have no idea what's involved, but I look at, how many boats are involved, how many cages are involved, how many seed they have to buy, I mean, I have no idea in the dollars and cents, but to be a successful aquaculture, you're gonna be able to put that kind of dough up front. And if somebody's a new applicant, they have to prove that, but we don't even have a number.
Yeah, we don't have to go there yet.
The state's supposed to inspect those every so often. Do you know them doing that?
I have brought people from the state out to the sites, yes.
And do they do some kind of recording or records or?
It was just out to the site to look, and that, it was just, yeah, basically go for a boat ride. Basically go for a boat.
But yeah, I mean, but we don't know. They could get back to the dock and make a report. I mean, we don't know.
Yeah.
They could get back on where it's on land, and they could go to their desk and they could make, went
Yeah.
out on the thing today and blah, blah, blah.
Then they have a
Right.
camera and take pictures with their phone and take that back, put it in the report.
They're supposed to start inspecting them more and listen to that 1 hour thing. Every month now or 3 times.
So,
Supposed to double the inspection.
and there's one thing then, so we're kind of like, our only thing we have to do tonight is, do we recommend that it stays with, as, it's a transfer, not a renewal or a denial? So I guess
We need to figure out what site we're talking about.
Yeah, we do.
That's the first thing you have to
I
do before you
just-
do anything.
Figure out
I
which
just felt
site-
it was the let. John Finley's in the let, and he
John
put it,
Finley was the let.
No, I'm gonna put 5, I'll
According to the list, I've got.
well, that list, do you have that list?
I do.
Oh, okay, see? Here we go.
So.
and it's the
according
let,
to-
right?
According to the list, it gives you the expiration date.
Sure.
5/10/24
Yes,
is Christine Fennelly,
yes.
Gooseberry number 3, then it says transfer from John. Directly above that, expiring in 26, it's not an issue right now.
No,
It's
we have
gonna
time.
be an issue.
Yes.
Christine Fennelly transferred from John.
Okay then, so
26, we
it's the
have-
Gooseberry site.
That's Gooseberry. And also on 26, on the same date, they're all the same date with the exception of the first one. Fennelly Christine LW2 transfer from John.
And that's,
That's next year. This year.
Let's worry about, let's just worry about
that's the
this,
upland.
this year.
Oh, so this one right here we're talking about is the 25 acres.
Yes.
So
this is
one for this year is Christine Fennelly, transfer from John upon his death, Gooseberry number 3.
Then that's what we're talking about.
So that's-
And that's all we're interested in.
25.
That's it.
Um,
No, I'm looking over your shoulder, you did perfect.
So I don't know how much more we want to beat this around, but I'm willing to make a motion that we recommend that it be transferred to Christine, to next of kin.
I do not agree with that.
So,
I would say we make a motion to, I don't think we should endorse anybody. I think that what we should endorse is that the selectmen do the job that's set forth.
well, they're going to ask us.
I think
and
we should put it, no objection to it being transferred, but I don't think that we should say, yeah, because then what happens if somebody on the list goes, I'm next, why did you guys, like, I don't get it.
Then they should get up and say why
They should be here right now.
they should be here right now, or they should be at the meeting next, whatever the next selectman meeting is.
Okay, that's fair.
And they're
enough.
gonna
But
be,
they weren't
they're gonna be
public.
notified by registered letter.
But they weren't publicly notified about this meeting. If we send a letter to them publicly notifying about the meeting in June, then they can argue this.
I would say this, I would go this, I would say that the Shellfish Advisory Board should say, we have no objection to, rather than saying we endorse it. Why can't we say we have no objection to the lease being transferred? That kind
Subject
of,
to a public hearing.
yeah,
have
that
to
kind
go to
of,
public
like,
hearing.
that kind of says it. We don't mind if it goes to
When it goes
so-and-so.
before the selectmen, Jim Hartnett asked us to have weigh in on how we felt
Maybe we
about.
should just weigh in that we have no objection.
As
And
a-
leave it at
I
that.
agree with John.
Yeah, I do too. I think we gotta take a stand one way
Yeah,
or the other,
let's-
Skip. We're not the ultimate arbiters of this. The-
No, it's
So
not,
the
that's not our
selectmen will be.
decision.
We can still cast an opinion.
Yeah. So I second your,
Well, I haven't made the motion yet, but,
oh,
Yeah,
okay.
you made a motion. So-
all right,
so-
I'll make the motion.
So John, before you make a motion, what you're saying is, you're gonna say we have no, what are you gonna say?
I was just saying, make a motion that we recommend transfer it to Christine Finley.
for,
But I think we have to have in that motion language that says, based on the result of a public hearing. Because we have to give a public hearing. If nobody shows up, it's a no-brainer. If somebody shows.
Okay,
Because if we don't,
yeah, that's good wording.
We're in.
Right, so that's just the wording part of it. I was just trying to like
Because
summarize
by
and
having a
move.
public hearing, if we're not going to, we gotta give those people on the list the opportunity to.
So
stand
should
up
it say,
and
subject to public hearing, we endorse?
Something along that line, yeah.
Yeah, I think that's,
Well, recommend transfers, but I say,
Recommend the
I
transfer.
would agree with that.
Subject to the,
subject to the
public hearing and
to the
following all the
outcome.
rules and regs, we support the transfer of the lease to the next of kin.
next of kin, Christine.
I would
it's
agree.
it's
I agree.
specific, it gives her a name.
and don't you want to reference that lease number as well in the motion?
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, it's listed as gooseberry number 3.
Okay.
And that's according to Paula's list.
So,
Do you want to restate that motion then?
So yeah, let's see if we can grab all that in one motion.
I'd like to make a motion that we recommend transfer,
Go ahead. Yeah. Okay.
transfer of Gooseberry Site number 3 from, to be,
From John to Christine.
to John to Christine, and then to Christine as part of the expiration of the lease site. We recommend a transfer. I don't think we even have to put any more than that, do we?
Well,
If they ask us,
The reason we're
what-
doing a transfer is because the parameters.
Well, it's coming up it's coming up,
Yeah, because the 1 year or the end of the lease is
Right.
expired, so it's coming up.
right.
So,
Do we want to get into the death of John or anything like that? I don't even see that as being necessary. Do you, Ron? Chris, what do you think?
well, it is a transfer,
It's a transfer as opposed to a renewal.
so.
A renewal would be somebody else got it
Right,
on the
so
waiting
if we-
list.
If we transfer from the passing of.
That needs to be in there.
I think so.
That needs to be in there.
Yeah, because they're not going to be clear on any of this.
Because the transfer would just be, well, it's a transfer because I was done with it.
Right.
When you have, there's different
Transfer
things.
due to death, the deceased of leaseholder.
Yes.
Transfer due to
I would agree.
death of leaseholder.
You want to read that motion back?
He can work on it tonight, homework.
So basically what we're saying is, we support the transfer of the lease from John deceased to Christine Gooseberry number 3, upon the conclusion.
Expiration of that lease, it stay with Christine.
Upon conclusion of the public.
It'd be, upon conclusion of public hearing, be transferred to Christine for a 3-year lease period or whatever.
You have every right to do that. Yeah, I think that's a good way to do it.
Yep, I agree. All right, so I'll second that motion.
Any more discussion? John, you got, no? Chris, you got any input? We're taking stuff from the audience, anybody else? Billy, you're coming up to date on stuff, coming up to
Oh, yeah,
speed pretty
very-
quick?
Very quickly.
Just
Okay.
as a- Oh, well,
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
just so, Chris, I mean, I think this makes it easier going forward, because now we've set precedent.
And this will be the precedent for going forward.
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
Going forward, we
The
send
whole
out the
key is that
letters,
public hearing.
Or
take it to the
if,
selectmen, let them decide.
or, the next one comes up for whatever reason, we can request a renewal,
Right.
or we can request a
And
denial.
if Chris says to us on the next one, hey, listen, this guy's got 4 violations, well, that'll weigh in on our recommendation.
It's case by case.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Weigh in on our
I got a
recommendation.
question about the gooseberry. When did those expire? I wonder why.
He's got it right there.
Gooseberry expires.
Are you talking about-
24.
No, the area.
The area,
Oh, they have to be used within 5 years, 3 years?
it might even be less than that. It's a very small window. Once there's a survey of that area,
The survey has to be done annually to keep them active, if I'm not mistaken, right? Didn't Bruce have to go
I-
by there every year? Coming
there
back?
was, yeah, they don't, it's not surveyed and then stay like perpetually open. It's surveyed, it has a very short window of 6 months to a year. It's very short. And then if there's no takers,
You've also got to remember the Coast Guard, the Army Engineers also have to sign off on this besides Division of Marine Fisheries.
it's a huge undertaking, and the steps in which they used to survey and that we might have listed somewhere are not the steps in which they move forward with.
They used to do a shellfish sample,
The Division of
right?
Marine Fisheries, I think, would then front the bill to survey these sites. At this point in time, the person that's interested in it is going to then be paying for it. And whatever the order of operation of who you contact, who pays the survey boat, it's changed.
So nobody on that list went for those when they were opening?
When
No.
they were available, 3 were taken.
At this point in
John
time,
Finley, Kristen Finley, and, not Christine, his wife, and John, the father. They took the 3 of 6.
Yeah, so the other 3, nobody,
No,
No.
and if
There's
somebody's
nothing
interested in
available
going
right now.
out there, they can go through the process of getting them, because it's pretty much unproductive shellfish was the criteria for the state to get involved.
but yeah, at this time, there are no open areas. There's nothing that's been surveyed. You're basically starting from zero if you wanted to create a new site.
Okay, so
Okay,
that's out of the way.
that one's done.
Hey, Rick, can I just get a quick follow-up there, the Great Island Relay? When will we be talking about that, February?
February 11th.
February 11th,
2/11.
2025?
2/11/25.
0800.
Yeah, 8 a.m.
0800.
Good detail, CB. I'm gonna write that in my notes right now.
that's about when the sun comes up that time of year.
Thank God.
As if that matters.
You're all gonna wish you had a pilot house.
We're gonna get you a lead. He created a lead for us.
Okay, ready for number 5?
Yep.
New rules and regulations for the harvest of.
Did we miss
Oh, no.
number 4?
Number 4, you mean?
Yep.
Okay, yeah, number 4. Create a new commercial license for the harvest of oysters. So,
I think we've kicked this around a lot, haven't we?
Yes.
We've kicked it around a lot, and it was getting ready to go to the select board. Upon talking to Paula about it, there was things that were missing, specifically the framework of this license. I think it's easy to say, let's create a new license. Great, let's do this. But we need to have the license, a window of the license. So the license shall start, I think it's somewhere in December 15th, by the Division of Marine Fisheries, that then open up the conditional area that is north of Cadman's Neck and Cadman's Cove. So I believe that the Division of Marine Fisheries would open it December 15th. I think it used to be December 1st, and then it was the 15th.
It was November 15th.
November 15th.
It was November
and so
1st and
so-
the 15th, and it just got worse and worse because of the
So we need
test.
to create a framework for this license in which the license will be valid. And so to start that, it would be that it would start December 15th, or when the Division of Marine Fisheries has satisfactory testing of a conditional area to then open it. So we're kind of giving a loose framework of, we think it's December 15th, but ultimately we had it open after December, might have even been into the new
If
year.
it's a
Not
town
this year,
license, why
the
don't we
year
just make it the
before
first,
this
the
year.
first of the year?
yeah, because you can still harvest oysters on Cadman's Neck. down the
I
bottom
think
by
it should be
street, up
applied
on
for
it,
first of the year,
let's have it
for
come-
starters,
Well, this
1
is
January.
this is where it gets interesting too, because there's nobody that's saying that you can't harvest wild oysters year round.
Yeah, that's why we started January 1st instead of trying to mix it with Hicksbridge.
So this is where things just got murky, and I had Paula we had to pull it because I didn't want to go before the select board unprepared. I don't want this advisory committee to go before the select boards. So
So why don't we?
so we're basically saying that you wouldn't be able to catch oysters unless you have a specific license during a specific window, when as of right now, you could go out there with your commercial shellfish license.
Until the license comes out, it's not gonna be effective, so we gotta pick a date for.
Well, but what I'm trying to say is, right now with the commercial shellfish license,
You can do
you could go
anything
collect
except.
you could go collect oysters in the areas that are open right now.
Correct.
Under that license.
Correct. After January 1st,
So-
the proposal is for oyster license to harvest oysters.
This license would then have to be Hicksbridge specific?
No,
Let's just.
oysters.
Let's just start at 2025, January, when we.
So this,
do your other
so we
license.
just renew the other license, so we're just gonna create a completely independent, because we're gonna have to amend the commercial shellfishing license right now. So there's a whole lot of, there's so much stuff that's swirling around.
We don't have to amend anything.
Yeah, well, what's, yeah.
In
We start
the
January
shellfish
1,
regulations.
Yes,
You have the scallops that is completely separate, the date varies.
sure.
I suggest we look at that and delete scallop and write oyster.
I got it right here, here's the language. 45, this is in the regulations that have to be updated on the website. This is not in the book. It might be in the book, but going through the website. Unless the scallop closed season is modified under the provisions of Mass General Laws 130, Section 73 by the board, no person shall scallop between April 1st and September 30th. So we just take scallop out, put oyster in there, and come up with 2 dates.
Come up with the dates.
No, the date should be year.
It would leave it.
Yeah, well, the
So
date,
we delete,
January 1 to December 31st.
That's right.
Correct.
That's
Oh,
right.
yeah,
Correct.
exactly.
but I think there's your framework. And just delete scallop and put oyster, and delete the dates and put January 1st to December.
January 1st, so that we don't have any issues this year. We have to
And then
renew,
that's when-
we'd have to reprint.
Oh, yeah, no, yeah.
No, and then we also, because of January, we all have to get shellfish license January 1st.
Right.
So this would be in addition to the shellfish license.
When they go up to buy a commercial license, the lady will say, would you like an oyster license as well? So
Or
at that
a scallop
time-
license.
Or a scallop license, so they'll be informed at that time that, which I'm sure they'll know ahead of time.
Well, it'll be on the
They'll informed
website
At that
and-
time, if
and
they
elsewhere.
don't know, that there's a separate fee and license for that fishery.
And then in the previous meeting, but when we were talking about it, we suggested a fee for $300.
So let me
Same
ask this.
as a scallop.
Let me ask this, why are we not
Okay,
fishing for oysters above Hicksbridge today?
Because of the water quality, the state mandates.
Okay, let's say the state cleans it up. The state comes out.
Then we could work up there 12 months of the year.
So if the state comes out next week and says it's all spiffy clean, the river's wide open,
Mhm.
we can technically oyster.
Well, you can south of Cadman's Neck and Cadman's Cove now.
Yeah, but, so, I mean, we shut down oysters on 430, north of Cadman. Correct?
yes.
Correct,
The whole river shuts down, not just oysters.
Why?
You can't go pole hogging there.
because of the water quality.
But if the state comes back next week and says the river's clean, we
Then,
go-
then you can unless we want to self-regulate ourselves.
and which we can, because it says here, unless the oyster season is closed or modified under provisions of chapter 130, 73 by the board, so the board can shut it down.
Right,
So that's what we should do.
I agree.
Or if
So I
it's
think we got the language, I think we got the framework,
date,
and
It's still January 1st.
it also, this has to go to a public hearing, so we have to take it and have it advertised. I suggest we do it at the same time as you do a license transfer, instead of having to go through, a whole bunch of steps.
So we'll try to get it done for the 17th.
17th, if Paula can put that part of it together.
Put this there on the same night?
Let's do it.
Yeah,
Why not?
yeah, yeah.
It's easy enough. We've got
She
the
said you could do it A, B, C, D, you could bring more than one thing before the selectmen.
Good.
We have in the past,
Everybody's
too.
notified, if they pay attention, that the fee is gonna be X on June 17th, that's it. There's
So
no
why don't we
waiting
talk
in
about the
November.
fee? So we've talked about the process. So now we agree that the process should be to follow the scallop model and to put it on the agenda and to get it into the selectmen. But why don't we talk about the fee? Because the fee has to go along with it.
Let's start with the fees. A commercial scallop license is $400. Okay. A commercial shellfish license is $300.
On the
Right
agenda,
now-
we're gonna be
right now,
addressing,
Commercial shellfishing includes oysters, steamers,
Mussels.
hogs,
Everything but scallops.
everything but scallops, yeah.
Yes.
I think 300 is a little steep. Gotta be honest. That's my personal opinion. I'm not a shell fisherman, I have too many jobs, but I think that 300 is a little stiff.
For
If-
oyster
if-
license.
If we're gonna, if it's 400 for a scallop license and 300 for the rest, now we're just gonna bang them with another 300?
Yes.
I think that's tough.
We know how many bushels that were taken out this year? Rough guess, anybody?
Of
Oysters.
oysters?
It's in the minutes.
Yeah, it's in the minutes of last,
And these are based on Chris's numbers.
I did bring the packets here. Every year we have a packet of the rainfall, the shellfish log, and we have 2023, 2022, 2021. If anybody after the meeting wants to take a look at that, those records.
I just weigh in quick.
351 with 5 weeks left.
Yeah, 351.
Yeah.
I'll weigh in just on the oyster stuff. We've just seen, that's our only really sustainable fishery left in the river. And due to harvesting pressure, it's going down pretty fast. It's now hard to get, no place close to your limit, but a long day.
These are updated. Those are updated prices.
So
is
we're
the-
trying to get a grip on how many people are going. A year ago, 23, about 10 more people got into the oyster business,
So is-
for whatever reason.
Is the separate the separate oyster license and the high fee designed to take pressure off of the fishery?
No, it's a copy of towns down the Cape that have divided different fisheries into different licensing groups.
Okay. It's.
So they can keep, you know, a little more.
It's basically just to keep up with surrounding communities and what they're doing and what they're
No,
charging.
not necessarily that.
But I mean, you're saying that it's,
That's what,
Based
that's
off
where
of-
that's where our
based
research
off-
led us, because we can't have a limited entry fishery. It's open to the public. So 20 people want to go, 30 people want to go. There's nothing you can do. So how do you sustain the fishery? How do you limit harvest? You can limit the harvest by how much you can catch. And the other thing is the town is, should get some kind of a fee for that's involved in licensing of managing a fishery.
So Chris, the 351, that wasn't the total, correct?
That wasn't the total. I don't have the full total right now, and I'm not gonna sit here, I'm not gonna.
We didn't get
waste
up there
everybody's
much at
time.
all this year. Well, I didn't feel I got it.
But I can tally it up because the season has ended up there. But that doesn't mean the scallop season is completely over because you can still go and, you can,
Yeah,
sorry. oyster.
Cadmus
Yeah.
neck.
Thank you.
Could we say 500 for the sake of argument?
I-
150?
I'd feel more comfortable getting the real numbers because if I don't know, I'm gonna say I don't know, and I'm saying I don't know right now. But we can take a look at the year previous. Do we have a total on the year previous?
No. Oh, yes, you do.
it says no data.
21,
No,
20.
there was missing data.
And then the year previous to that was 108.
Yes.
So it looks like significant pressure has been applied to the oyster fishery.
So your
We've
next-
gone from 108 to no data to 351.
Yeah, so your next
I
question
believe
is, what
that there
is
was no data
maximum
was
sustainable
even
yield?
higher
Exactly.
because there's less rain.
The data is, the data is here. I'm sorry, I didn't have a chance to look through that. But yeah, the graph is going up.
Yeah, but how do you determine maximum sustainable yield? I mean,
That's
Well,
a-
we can't limit the amount of licenses, so there's only a couple of ways we can do it.
right, but before you do
but I
that, you
think
have
what
to say,
Bill's
how much
asking
can you
is-
actually take out of there?
How do we even gauge the fishery?
Go up there and work for 2 hours and tell me how many oysters you catch, and ask 22 guys that all do the same, and everyone's gonna have the same answer. We're not catching what we used to, because there's none. They've been caught up.
So we have two.
So how do we manage make a sustainable fishery, stay sustainable? We only have a few tools at our disposal.
The other tool is to.
There's no,
reduce the take.
the only limit of entry we have in the town of Westport is aquaculture. Nothing else, everything's open to the public.
There's no way you can say after 300 bushels, you're all done, guys.
I don't know what- if.
You
the-
can't set a
if-
cap
if-
on this
I'm
at
not
all?
sure if we can do that, but that's a tool. We don't have the tools.
Well, do you think, just for conversation's sake, we're also talking about limiting going from 3 baskets to 2. So to Skip's point, that it's kind of steep, you're talking $1,000, okay? You're talking 300 for a fisherman's license, 400, and now 400 for scallop, and now another 3, that's $1,000 for a guy, somebody to fish everything. So would it be, in the eyes of compromise, would it be better to reduce the $300 projected oyster license to a smaller number, and at the same time, reduce the catch to 2 baskets?
Yeah, but
think that's
there's
a
another
more
variable in
tool.
here that you're
I
missing.
think the
That's-
2 bushel thing is more effective than the other, but you gotta remember there's town resources involved in managing fisheries, water testing, patrolling, whatever.
Right, the number of
So
fishing
it's,
days is
so
going to vary
the
as well.
more fishing pressure goes up, there's more demand on the town to provide, just like if the population goes up, they need more police, more fire. And we're limited on the means of getting funding, the fees for it.
But if you're talking about sustainability. you
I'm
have
talking
to
about 2
know.
things, but yes,
Ultimately,
sustainability,
sustainability is the key word, isn't it?
it's the key word.
Right.
So the
So-
most important thing we're gonna talk about tonight, I believe, is the 2 bushel limit down from 3, for starters.
But every year, there are different numbers of fishing days, right, because it's all about the rain,
Correct.
right? So that's a variable that you can't control.
It's a variable you have no control over.
So you might have had, for example, 50 fishing days this year at 3 bushels.
You
drop
wouldn't,
it down to
but you
2.
wouldn't catch the 3 bushels this year, is my point. Very few people will get you 3 bushels.
I'm just for an example.
Right,
Okay, so
because they're not there.
The rain is gonna end too. It's been rainy for 2 years, but that's not gonna continue forever. The rain is gonna end.
And then we'll get scallops back.
3 years ago, there was a drought.
well, let me just throw it out there. Is it possible to cap the number of bushels that are harvested from the oyster grounds in the Westport River? Can you legally do that?
That's something that we would have to go,
State
yeah, that's a state question.
That would
I
have
think
to go to
that's
the
a state
state.
question.
I believe that'd have to go to the state.
Why would it though? Did we have to go to the state when we brought it back down from 4 bushels?
That's true.
It
Can the
was
selectmen
2
just
years
decide
back,
it?
We dropped it to 3 from 4.
Can we recommend to the selectmen and they approve it, that's it?
I think we have
I
control.
think you can.
The board has the say over the catch. I don't think they have the say over eliminating the catch, but I think they have the say over.
All right, so what you're saying, we'd have to get a program and a model to come up with the number.
That's why I
Then what-
said, you need to know,
Assigns a basket.
But we don't have enough information for a model because
you don't.
there's no limit on how many
How are you
people
gonna
can.
collect that data?
Yeah, no, you'd have to
Well,
have.
no, it's-
Scientists.
Like, how are you
and
gonna
It's
collect that
science.
data? Like, Chris doesn't have enough people to be there every single time that somebody lands with 3 baskets. And if we rely on the fishermen to, let's just say, remember to report,
Yeah, but what's the cap?
that's a
We don't know what the
very,
cap is.
that's a very.
no, that's the
inaccurate-
mystery, isn't it?
1,000 bushels, 500 bushels. you know.
But if you go with what John's saying and drop it from 3 to 2, and all of a sudden next year, wow, we've got another 20 fishing days, then there goes your whole
Well,
effort.
one of the limiting factors is the amount you catch. It's not profitable. We're all mercenaries. You don't go up there because it's not worth going. That's why so many people ended up going oystering in the first place. It was poor in other fisheries, so they jumped on that. And it couldn't sustain it. And that's the only really measure we have of, what's the,
It's
we're
hard to-
gonna do some, mulch planting, we're gonna try and enhance it, the seed, stick it to everything. The other thing that's going on now is the bushel limits are going down, but the count, they're getting smaller and smaller, just making the measure, every one of them. And we all know what happens to the fishery
It's
when
not good.
when you're catching, whether it be chicken lobsters or codfish, that makes no difference.
And you can't, like, limit the days because you have like 2 weeks of, well, almost a month now.
Yeah, that's-
Closed because of rain, so you can't say you don't.
That's a variable we have no control, so that doesn't apply. So there's not a lot of tools at our disposal, so.
What's a bushel of oysters worth? Just round numbers.
As they get smaller, they get about 500 count to a Westport basket,
So what's that worth in dollars and cents?
35 to 40 cents a piece,
Couple $100.
$200 per basket.
That's the price of the license. Basket.
So I would make a motion, just not an official motion, but I would say that we make some type of recommendation that maybe $200, because the cost of one bushel, and then drop it to 2 bushels.
Yeah, that seems reasonable. I'm just like, I'm concerned that it's our only left sustainable fish. I don't see any coag seed anywhere in the river. Our program's the only thing that keeps shellfishing going.
Well, I see Skip's motion as accomplishing 2 things. One, if we drop it down to 2 Westport baskets, that will preserve a basket of fish a person a day. So that's gonna help sustainability, hopefully. And the second piece is the $200 will, like anything, put more money back into Chris's
The coffer.
coffers.
Indirectly, because that goes to,
Indirect.
that goes to general fund,
That goes
but
to
it
general
goes
fund.
indirectly.
It brings back more to the town. I mean, that's the bottom line. I mean, that's the real deal. The reason we charge is because money has to go back into the general fund. That's what it is. So I think your motion accomplishes two purposes. And we get the 2 baskets. That can always be changed. If things turn around, it gets good or bad or whatever it is. But we've already changed the baskets once, from 4 to 3.
5 to 3.
5 to 3.
I think the broad stroke that we need to look at is to say, are we operating in a losing system right now? Ask some people, they say, no, there's plenty of them. Ask other people, you say, no, this is getting hit hard. For every oyster that you take out, what is it, you have to put another shell in?
You have to put another shell for every shell you take
Now,
out.
so far in the 2023-2024 season, with the axe strips, we've had 351 bushels come out of there. Are we putting 351 bushels of culch back in there?
Well, some of them are undersized, they're going back in
They're
the
going
same
back in
place,
there.
so you're
Sure.
keeping the culture on the bottom.
Yeah.
The important thing is you don't make the bottom bare.
No.
And that's gonna lead to another discussion about scratching, taking the basket back to the boat and leaving a bare spot, not returning the undersized and the shells back to the area.
Just looking at where we are coming from to where we're going, how many oyster people were going out there in the early 2000s versus what's happening right now? Who was it,
It
you
was
and
closed-
Crab and whoever?
No, it was closed for 30 years. It opened, there were 20 to 25 guys going,
Sure.
catching 4,000 a day.
Okay,
I think it was an 8 bushel limit then.
yeah.
And slowly it got beat down. Then some guys started doing things, towing scallop dredges, bull raking,
Yep.
and you're getting bare spots. And that's why I know that the culch thing is so critical. Those spots have never come back.
I just wanted to look to where we're coming from to where we're going to where we are,
But
where we
it
are
had
right
been
now.
left for 30 years alone. So there were oysters of
It
all
was coming out, it was
sizes. everywhere.
bananas, yeah.
So you-
Chris, do you have more data to add to this where we can maybe
I
come up
had-
with some kind of rough?
Well,
timeline?
this is before we go, I mean, I'm at the point now where what I see out there and the size of the oysters, and even talking to our local growers that say, yeah, it would probably take about 5 years for it to go from spat to
the wild stuff.
the wild stuff.
Yeah.
Whether or not that is,
I
is
believe
true, do you think
that's a rough.
okay, so we're gonna add that data. So we need 5 years to go from nothing to something that is saleable.
Don't get me wrong, there's a lot of spat out there right now stuck on shells. Right from that size.
They're all getting chipped off when you bring in the 3-inch oyster.
Well, but
The,
theoretically, they should grow that. But,
would we not?
you know, and there's less fishermen now than there were even at the end of last year, the beginning of this year to the end of this year, the amount of fishermen slowed down. And the limiting factor was the dollars.
What side would we want to be on? The side that says, well, we tried to dig our heels in to conserve, or do we want to say, God, we got all of them, hopefully they grow back? You know, that's a question that we have to say, well, what side do you want to be on?
Well, anytime you have unknowns, and clearly there are a lot of unknowns here, you have to err on the cautious side.
I feel we're stewards of the river, all of us, that's part of our oath, and given the oysters, nobody's here standing up for the oysters, we're the only ones who've got a voice to stand up for the
We have to be
oysters.
part of the solution, and not
Right.
part of the problem.
So just limiting the harvest is the only thing at our disposal as a tool. And
So let's.
so let's get one thing
let's
out of the
make
way
a
and then the
motion,
next
Let's put
one.
it out for discussion and let's close it.
I think $100 either way, whether it's $200 and $300 times what, 10 licenses or whatever, it's gonna get into the general fund, or 20 licenses, 30 licenses, it's gonna be a big wash and what, you know.
After all said and done, I don't
After
think.
it's all said and done, it's really not, it's $100 here, $100 there, it's all wishy-washy.
But it also gives you an idea how many people are going oystering, how many guys are being compliant and following the rules or buy into the program. You know, the guys who are gonna object to it, aren't buying into the program, don't care.
Okay, I motion to set the fee for the new license, oyster license at $200.
And 2 bushels.
Is that a separate thing?
Doesn't have to be.
Yeah, well,
Doesn't have to be.
I think,
I'll second that.
I think if we're gonna make a motion, and I'm not part of the making a motion or voting on it, but let's include everything. Let's
Okay.
include the price, the dates, everything, so it's all wrapped up into one nice, neat
I
package.
agree.
So let's do the license first and then the limit, the bushels thing second. That'd be two
And then the
separate
price.
items.
Yeah, let's
Okay,
just,
So
yeah.
I motion starting January 1st, 2005, that we create a new oyster license, and the fee would be $200. And at this time, the limit will be 2 Westport baskets.
I
Is that
second.
correct?
Put
Do
it
you
on for
wanna
discussion.
amend, do we have a separate motion to amend the existing license for 2025? Because you're gonna have to amend
No.
the,
No, that's
Stay
just,
status quo
Okay.
on January.
as long as it shows
Okay.
on January 1,
But
you
you-
you
You'll
have
have
to,
1 month of 3 baskets
right.
to December 2024.
sure.
And then when we get to 2025 and everybody renews their license, they're gonna have to follow the new rules and buy the new license.
And the
Okay,
booklet
but-
comes out.
I think that we need to amend the existing commercial fishing license because it's under that umbrella. You have the ability to catch oysters on that license. Just because you're creating a new oyster license, you haven't amended the
Oh.
old license. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
If you want to get cute and go somewhere like, you know, or maybe I'm wrong. I'm wrong. I don't know. I mess up all the time.
Because
I think that's,
You would have to amend the old license because the old license would go forward without being fixed. Without being fixed.
Yeah, 'cause Shellfish includes oyster right now.
But doesn't the old license expire December 31, 2024?
correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, but you would have to amend. But you'd still have to amend the license.
Why? We're creating a new one.
Well, you're creating a new license for oysters.
But the old
But you're
one
not-
still
You
says-
mean
What?
amend the shellfish license?
The shellfish
The
license.
actual commercial shellfish,
actual-
all
yes.
inclusive.
Correct. It's because we've isolated scallops out of there. Now we're isolating oysters out of there.
Yeah, so we'll strike.
I think Chris is right. I think that we would have to put wording in the commercial scallop license that, of the species that it covers. We may not have to exclude anything, we just have to word what it covers.
Yeah.
It covers quahogs and steamers
Mussels.
and mussels.
Maybe we could do that all in one motion.
Okay.
You want, yeah, because this is where, like, talking to Paula, it really got interesting because, well, did you amend the old license? Well, what's the dates? You know, so where it's just like, okay, let's
Yeah.
get it all in one shot,
Yep.
but it's got to cover 4 different things in one motion.
Okay,
So that same motion, Ron,
I'm
would go
gonna- I'm gonna
forward with the amendment of,
of the existing shellfish license to
to exclude oysters.
oysters.
Yep.
Okay. I second that motion.
Any more discussion?
We put it out for discussion.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Okay, that's number 5, right?
And 6, no?
No,
Five,
the Hicksbridge issue.
Oh, yeah, John Chase brought up a good thing last time of, no, jumping overboard north of Hicks Bridge, because it's a soft bottom and it pushes all the oysters into the mud? Is that just a rule and regulation you could?
That's something that would have to go to the select board,
That has
because
to go to the
that would have
select
to go in this booklet, who is ruled by this.
I think
The select board.
if we just took some time, maybe in a flyer you gave them with the license, the importance of mulch and a shell base. And, because not only walking on them pushes them into mud, it's scratching them, putting them in a basket if you're jumping overboard, bringing the basket back to your boat, picking them, they don't go back in the same place. Now there's a bare spot, and there's 2 or 3 bare spots up there now where it used to be all-inclusive. The way they killed it down by Harry Kirby's 2007, 2008 was they got in there with scallop drags, bull rigs, and there's just, it killed a beautiful bed of oysters because there's just no culch there. And we didn't know enough to put culch back.
Procedurally, can I make a suggestion?
Yeah.
That we go back to the last motion that was just approved and add in, because it's all gonna be in the same motion, so we have, the $200 fee increase, the 2 Westport baskets, excluding oysters from the shellfish license, and limiting north of Hicks Bridge to tongs and hand rig from the boat only. It's all gotta go back into this booklet, so we might as well do it all at once.
Yeah, you add those 3 words, from boat only,
Yeah,
Yeah,
and that covers it.
yeah, I got that in there.
yeah,
And you don't think any beds north of the bridge should have this?
specifically north of the bridge.
I mean, south of the bridge, excuse me. That, I mean,
Well,
like, if you went on the
My
other.
experience is stuff south of the bridge is all along the shore on the real hard rock bottoms.
Okay.
And that reef in front of Cadman's Neck there, that's a rock.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was
I
just,
used to jump out in front of.
That's the only place you're gonna be getting out anyway, you're not gonna be getting out in the channel.
yeah, I didn't know if you wanted to extend that south of the bridge at all in anything. It's just a question.
Now, what do you think, John, because you're the expert on the beer spots?
All I know is we could add shells, and that's gonna come up later on in the meeting tonight about going up there and putting culch out, volunteers. But, anything we can do to help the oyster. We put shells up last year, we got there a little too late. The few I picked up had 1 or 2 spat on them. There were some old sea clam and corn shells we put in there, and they had 10 or 15 spat on them. So,
It's working.
but we got there too late. There was one reason or another, so, one of the things we do at the middle of June instead of the middle of July. Well, it was the first, second week, it was the 10th of July, I think, last year.
So should we be looking at just north of Hicks Bridge?
I think for now, that's a good place to start.
Yeah,
I think it's a good place to start for now, like
Yeah.
Ron said, it's hard bottom south of the bridge,
Yeah.
where you're gonna be hand harvesting, so to speak.
so there's pebbles, and on the hot bottom, there's pebbles and everything that serve as culch to collect spat.
True.
Up in the soft bottom, what we
Soft
take out of there, if we don't replace it. This has a lot to do with the rocks that are stuck in Hicks Bridge that we're gonna remove, and then you don't get the circulation up there. They don't grow as fast up there. I'd say it's probably more than 5 years for them to grow north of Hicks Bridge than south of it.
So is it safe to say we're gonna add those 3 words to that motion, and we'll remake a motion, and we'll re-second it, and reapprove it? We can't
Yeah, you
add
make
to
an
it after it's been
amendment to
approved.
the motion.
So basically, no waiting. Okay, but we have to have a vote on it, right?
To amend it, yeah.
You read it, you get it.
All right, so I'll make a motion that we amend the previous motion to add no waiting north of Hicks Bridge when fishing for oysters by tongs or hand rig. No, let me strike that. No waiting north of Hicks Bridge for oysters,
Period.
period.
I'll second that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. So we've now got oyster license, no waiting, And,
Current regulations question.
and the fee's 200, is that correct?
200.
No.
Yeah, so it's long, so.
Yeah.
Breaks.
I mean, we're just doing recommendations. We submit this to the selectmen. They might send us back, do some more homework. You know, if we do it comprehensively, they shouldn't have too much argument, or if they do have questions, we should be able to answer them.
Then moving on to the next one.
Raise the fee for the general shellfish license.
And we talked about that before. I don't
It's
know.
a money grab tonight, isn't it?
No, this has been on the table since last March.
September.
September, we started talking about in March of '23. It never got to the selectmen.
One of the things I didn't do, I wanted to look up when the last time we raised the fee. Would you know that off the top of your head, Chris? Like 5 years, 10 years?
No, yeah, 5 years or less, I think.
Oh, is
I
it?
think it was 200, then it went to 300. And that was within 5 years.
One of the rough rules of thumb we're thinking about is you make it in one day. You know, so 300 going to 450. And this was based on a survey of Cape and Island towns with shell fisheries that, you know, an opening day of a relay pays for the license.
Well, what does the shellfisherman get for the increase in this fee? What do we
It's
get?
open to the public, and there's more people, and there's more effort. His equipment for relaying, I mean, relay and hatchery is the only thing just making Quagga sustainable. So,
What's the current fee?
300.
300.
Yeah, we just put up 200. We just added 200.
We just added 200, so we actually,
Basically the same thing.
There goes 100 we saved.
if you go oystering.
I understand the reasoning behind it, but, I mean, how hard are we gonna hammer these guys?
yeah, I would say we table that
So
one.
let's table it then.
Table that one since we've already
Added another
added
200.
another license fee.
Yeah,
Let's see how the oyster fishery responds to being, you know, and then if we find that these measures are making progress, then we can try and go up, I guess.
Question, do you have the power to close an area, say north of Hicks Bridge, just to save the area, to keep it from getting pounded?
I think we could probably do an emergency closure. I think
Yeah.
you could go to the selectmen and you could request it and they'd probably grant it.
That would be an option in a worst-case scenario. So.
Gary Sherman addressed that, 15 years ago, and he had to go before the selectmen. They gave him permission, but I don't know if that was a case-by-case, and I don't know the date, so I can't get the minutes of that meeting up, but it came up once that I know of, and the selectmen went along with it.
I think we can, to answer your question, Chris, I think we can under 13073. It says the board can make the adjustment in the season. It specifically says scholars, because they're talking about scholars, but I'm willing to bet it.
You can change Coag oyster any word you want there, right?
Yeah, I don't know if I have a copy of that. Let me look that up and see what 13073 says, because that's a good point. I think you're right. But we just has, the board has to do it.
Well,
because they make the-
Yeah, we'd have to make a recommendation to the Board of Selectmen, and then the licensing authority would put a hold.
Right.
I thought of, do we just shut oyster and Hicks Ridge down for a year, just if necessary? You know,
If that's a recommendation, we can make that recommendation
right,
to the selectmen, they're the licensing authority, and they can suspend licenses for 1 year.
yeah, but I'm talking about closing area, just close it, give it a break. It's, fishery management tools, that's what I'm thinking about. It seems like none of them work as long as you fish
Well,
hard.
you don't have enough of them.
But if you don't have anything, you don't have fishermen to regulate.
Okay.
Okay, so we're gonna table the fee.
Table the fee. We've already-
Relay area we've already addressed.
So number 5 is tabled, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Number 6 has been addressed earlier.
Okay, number 7 is spreading mulch, volunteers. First of all, can we use the relay skiff?
Sure.
And we'll do it the way we did last year. Bunch of pickup trucks, bunch of totes.
Yep. If you need a loader, I would just need a little, I'd need a heads up on that.
Right. There's no way to, unless they're in the totes, you can't handle them, you can't dump them loose in the boat, so, because we
Worked
keep
out
that.
good last year, just
You're
shove it.
talking
You just
about
shove it.
scallop shells.
Scallop shells.
They're still there.
They're still there. There's enough, almost as much as last year. Then maybe not quite as much. And
I
then
just wondered
in the
if they-
future, we might try and get,
They're in the same condition.
yeah, yeah. No, I'm thinking like the middle Saturday or Sunday of June, depending on when the tide is.
Is there an alternative to scallop shells?
Yeah, there's any shell. Oyster
Or
shells.
you go to Betancourt's and get a load of,
No.
No, you
No.
can't, because they might have a disease or something.
Yeah, they have to be, go through testing and things like, they have to be
just a
on,
question.
yeah.
But Gary at one point was making a deal with the guy with the sea clam boat, Al,
Yeah, right for all.
and he was gonna donate sea clam shells. And matter of fact, they took up, 3 or 4 barrels. And you should have seen the scallops, oyster spat on them. You couldn't even see the clam shell, just the shape of it.
You know, they wouldn't bury the existing.
No, that's the idea. Something from to stick on, because they're floating around and they.
No, but I mean, the oysters that are already there, you're not gonna bury them.
No.
Spread it.
No, not by putting mulch
Yeah,
out.
what do we say, the second?
Say the second week in June?
I'm thinking the second week of June, whenever the Saturday or Sunday, depending on tides.
Did you want to do it on a non-relay day?
We did it on a Saturday last time.
How about like a Wednesday or something? I would just say I'm like an off day.
But we will have,
Wednesday or
we're
Friday.
gonna have relay in the
Sunday
afternoon.
last time. Did we do
Yeah.
it on a Sunday last time?
We did it on a Saturday last.
Saturday.
Yeah, that worked out good, I think we got more volunteers.
Right, and there was,
Saturday.
what do you call it kind of gone by, and we're gonna be doing it at high tide. So, first of all, did anybody get up to tides on the middle of June? Oh, it'd be 2 weeks from today. Low tide's at 10 o'clock in the morning, so
What date do you want?
what's the middle Saturday or Sunday of June?
2 weeks from today.
June
the high tide will be
8th.
mid-March.
June 9th,
Let's keep going next week. 15th and 16th?
15 and 16?
Yeah, can you give me a tide then? It's 3 weeks from today. It should be low tide in the
Well,
morning.
3 weeks will be low tide in the morning.
It says here high tide is at 5:16 PM. Low tide is 11:17 AM.
So if we did it at 8 o'clock, we'd have plenty of water, take the shortcut with the big boat. That's all we care about.
It's only one trip up there, because we brought all this.
We
stuff
brought,
around.
everything went up by truck,
Yeah.
and we could, I think we put like 20, we had 40 totes or 30 totes, we put 20 in the skiff at once, went out, dumped them. By the time we got back, they were there with the other 20.
So a bunch of pickups going
Yeah.
up to Hicks Bridge.
Yeah, we got 5 or 6 guys with pickups and shovels.
So what do you have for the date?
This is June 15th.
Is that Saturday?
Yes.
Yeah, I'll go for that.
June 15th is the third Saturday of the month,
Yeah.
because the first is a Saturday.
It'll be at 8 o'clock over at the, if there's a weather delay or whatever.
June
thunder-
15th. If you're gonna need a machine, I can bring mine over.
I
Have you got
know,
a small loader?
Yeah.
That would be helpful because.
That way you
shoveling-
can just put down a bunch of totes and just dump it in and just pick the totes up
Yeah, that might be easier for shoveling.
and shovel
It
them.
was hot and
it was a hot
Oh,
day,
yeah, it was,
but it was July too, that
there
was,
were gnats.
there were gnats.
Mosquitoes.
When did the gnats?
Okay,
come?
so
You wanna do this
Right
low
now.
tide, high tide? What's-
High tide. Well,
until we
high
have
tide's
the
at
over-
6.
The overflow lot.
Was that tide at the mouth of the harbor, Skip?
Oh, you got Hicks Bridge at
That's Hicks Bridge.
04:51 on the 15th.
High
I don't
tide.
know why the tide matters. Why does it-
It's low at
You just got
10:56.
one trip around the island.
If I have to go around the islands with taking the boat up, yeah, so it makes no difference, we'll just do it, let's do it at 0800. We'll
Hicks
meet
Bridge, East Branch, June 5th,
15th.
May 30th. This is
At the overflow, right?
June 15th.
So there's other business, we got a shell stock meeting this Tuesday at 5:30 at the West Border.
Wait a minute, hold-
This is
hold
it-
on, John.
oh.
Do we need a motion on setting up that?
Oh, yeah, sorry. Do we need a motion? Yeah.
It's an agenda item.
Okay. I motion that we set up, what do you call, moving the scallop shells over to North Hicks Bridge for oyster.
Spreading culture.
Spreading culture.
June 15th at 0800.
Oh, 800.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Okay.
Okay, now we're on other business.
Other business. I was just gonna bring up that it's not Shellfish Advisory Committee, but most of us participate in shell stock. And this Tuesday, June 4th, at 5:30 at the West Border. Outside, if it's nice weather, if it's poor weather, we'll do it inside. Just to kind of get the ball rolling.
Any of you guys got any other business? Any-
Well, that's one of the other businesses.
I do.
I got one.
Oh, boy.
Yeah, let's make it quick.
Chris.
It's only 7, so it's only 1920.
The grant for the relays.
Yes.
I've heard a couple of times from you that we have one more year of money left.
Yes.
How do we re-up that grant to ensure that we're in the game again? How do we get it, how does that?
In the past, because I think I've re-upped it twice, maybe three
Twice.
times so far. Write a letter to the Manton Foundation.
Is there a window we have to do it before the current grant expires? Is it 30 days, 3 years? What is there?
I believe in the past, in the final report that I send to them with the invoice, then the request goes in there to then re-up it for.
So is it safe to say we're gonna try to re-up again?
Absolutely.
Okay.
So when we pay off Bruce his last check, you send a report and a request at the same time?
It's usually early February is the deadline.
So, but
For the Manton
doing
Foundation,
it then is better.
I
Should we try and get a little press with it, some pictures, planting, stuff like that, and all the boats out together? I just wondered if that would,
we could. It's something that we've done in the past.
yeah.
We all have iPhones, we can take it.
Oh yeah, we can. Whoever's got a really good photo, if we want to do that. But yeah, it's usually the on the 5th year, the final report, the request goes in there because you don't want to have you want to stick the request in that report. You don't want to send the report and then send the request, or vice versa. It just gets lost in space. You want it to go to the right place at the right time to the right people.
So when is our 5th year? So we'll be doing this for February 2025 or February 2026?
It's this year and another year.
So it'll be,
Oh, so there's 2 years to go.
So 2025?
So it would be, yes.
the end of 25?
Well, the
will be-
request would then go in before February 2026.
Okay.
So late fall, a year from now is probably,
We've got a
all
little breathing room on that.
right. I wasn't sure, because I remember you saying that, how many years we got left and whatnot.
Yeah.
Do you need anyone to help write that?
If you want to look over it,
Well, Gene did it for a living.
sure.
Oh,
Perfect.
Very
Took
good.
that right off your plate.
Nice.
Well, yeah. Well, I mean, we can only make it better.
right.
So, yeah. It's worked so far, but we can only make it better.
No, that is a
Yeah,
wheelhouse.
but, come
Yeah,
to
but
budget.
So you want to
Decided
get
to do the work.
competition, so it never hurts to look professional.
I have 2 things I want to bring up. Being the newest member, I thought I would do my homework and look at what the town has for regulations as they are currently written. So I got the little green book like everybody else has got. And I printed out the shellfish rules and regs from the town's website. They are so out of date, it's almost laughable. And my question is, if I'm a new guy stepping into this, where do I get the real scoop other than talking to you guys?
The
Who brings this stuff up to date? Because it's clearly way out of date.
Oh, yeah.
And
It's
so
the,
is the town website as well.
oh, the town website, yeah. Nadine in the planning board does that. She does any altercations that need to be done to the town hall website. I have been talking with her because we have been out of books. So I've fixed this book to have correct prices, to have correct regulations. And so this book was scanned and sent to her, and we're working on getting it on the website.
Well, they gonna
live.
do a new printout of the book also to be passed out?
The book, well, here's
In the past, you've
the
talked
Shellfish
about-
department has been gutted financially, and the books cost, I don't know, $1,200-$1,500 for a box of books, or
How long would that last for?
maybe a year or two.
How many in a box?
I have to look at the old printing, but it's over $1,000 to get a box. So in talking not only with the town clerk and Nadine at the planning board, I scanned this whole book on there, and I sent her an email, maybe last week, and said, when you get a chance, could we put this most up-to-date booklet and just have it all electronic now to save the department costs?
That's a good idea.
To then, because
Yeah,
there's been times where things change, and instead of having to go through and fix 500 books, you can then just get page 4 and 5 and scan whatever was fixed on there, and then upload that onto the town hall website.
I mean, a lot
Because
of,
there is a big discrepancy. I can
a
agree with
lot
you.
a lot of information now is made solely available online. A
Yeah,
lot of-
everybody goes on.
A
That's-
lot of people have taken
Don't
away
say
the
that.
print.
See,
Don't say that.
I
We started at 5:30, by the way.
I just happened to come by to know what the cars were,
Oh, good.
I mean, Billy,
Turn the lights on.
Bit of community
Where's
spirit.
the coffee?
All right?
Billy, I agree
But
with
so-
you, because I did the same thing. I went on the website, I looked at the book, and just to what you just said, Chris, I'm saying, why are we even printing these books? This is ridiculous. Doesn't make any sense. And if somebody said they don't have computer access, everybody has an iPhone. There's
You can go to the
computer access.
library.
Go to the library. I mean, well, John, we'll hand through you.
Well, so part of
We'll go
what
through Joan.
Part of what took me here was I just asked myself the question, what stops someone from bringing his buddies along with nothing to do with fishing? All town residents, say 2 or 3 of them. Just go spend your $300, get your shellfish license. Let's go out, we can land 9 bushels instead of 3.
There's nothing that can be done about that.
Why not?
We sell a license, it's open to the public. I don't know how you stop that from changing.
One
Unless you
license per
get-
boat.
It's 2 licenses right now.
It's 2.
Why can't you change it to 1 then?
We went over that last year.
And what'd you come up with?
People,
Yeah, but why?
some guys,
So why did you come up with 2?
some guys wanted to go with,
We couldn't come up with one.
some guys, older, somebody, it was profitable, it was more profitable.
Father, son,
Father, son, there was a lot of argument, a lot of
a couple of
pushback.
guys want to go scalloping together, father. and son.
Scalloping was written that way exactly. No more than 2 limits per boat.
So let me give you an example of what the state sees here. The commercial striped bass license, I don't know if any of you guys have that. Obviously limits, if you have a boat license, you can land 15 striped bass. You can only have 1 license
Per
holder,
boat, yeah.
right? So 2 guys can't get together and land dirty fish.
Yeah, I
I
brought that.
think that's because of regulated species, though. That's a regulated species, and that falls under a different,
So is Cohog, it's regulated.
but it's not.
But that's Atlantic
it's not-
fisheries.
It's not, doesn't have a moratorium on it. So we can catch as many cohogs as we can catch, but once the striped bass quota is reached, so in that.
The authority is the Atlantic States, Mid-Atlantic Fisheries Commission.
That's true, but so the authority here is the select board.
Yes,
So you don't think it makes sense to just say 1 license, 1 boat?
Well, like we said, we tried that. We went over it a lot. last year. There was a few of us that wanted that. I'm for that one license, one person in a boat. Chris was actually in favor of that.
For
Yeah.
enforcement, it made his job a lot
Enforcement
easier. It's a lot easier enforcement for him.
Okay.
The other issue too, when well, I think we landed on 2 because we were having, there's a weight factor and there's also a cold water factor. If you were to have 3 people, 3 limits of cohogs, now it's 9 bushels, 3 people and 9 bushels in a boat, cold water situation, you're setting yourself up for a problem. And so then I think we were also sympathetic to, like, you know, the family, you know, the family that wants to go together, the buddies that, you know, went to high school
I'm not
together,
even sure we
whatever,
could
whatever
legally
is.
do it. Somebody who wanted to go with somebody else just sued. I'm not sure what our argument would be, other than safety.
Okay.
I don't know, maybe like 10 years ago, one of the state guys was at the ramp, and he was matching your license with your boat, just like with the fishery. So and we weren't doing that, so we all went down and got licenses to match our boat, and then the guy in the Bedford said you didn't really have to do that for shellfish.
Okay. Just one other comment for other business. You guys all know I was working on the Shellfish Hatchery most of the winter at Chris's behest. I still see that building that facility as being a very useful tool for the river, supplementing the various shellfisheries in the river. Where are we going with that? What are we going to do with it?
I
And
agree.
let me just add one more thing. One of the things that really kind of blew my mind the first time I stepped in there was all of the publications and logbooks that Gary had left behind. It was almost like time kind of stopped. And I kind of think we owe it to him to continue what he started. So I'm just asking, what's the general consensus here on where we're going with this?
I think a lot of those logbooks was when they were creating a spawning scenario, creating from nothing to something, the algae, the whole thing. And ultimately what happened was that it was not cost effective to then put all this time and money into something that then the pump died, the algae didn't grow, they didn't take, things died, and then it fell on its face and they realized that it was cheaper to buy $10,000 worth of seed to then grow up, as opposed to starting from zero, starting from spawn. You say, but it's free, it's cheap, they spawn, they're like rabbits, they just breed themselves and you just sit back and watch them go. But I think that they realized how labor intensive and cost, stressful for cost.
Do you remember when we had Andrew Ryan down? It was
Yes.
his day in December, most of us were there. And he basically said what was trying to happen then was kind of over your head. Like, you
Yeah.
guys are not qualified to do this.
Sure.
But he did lay out a scenario where we could purchase spat, seed, whatever you want to call it, from him or someone else. Just put him in the
He said he'd
uplands.
grow some from stuff we'd provided from this river.
Yeah, he also talked about writing grants for us. And I really think we should pick up that ball and run with it.
One of the things I gathered from our discussion was we had a way too small pump. It was running too hard, it was overheating, and it wasn't pumping enough
Yeah,
water.
that pump is actually designed for a compressor. That was
Right.
designed for intermittent use.
And
So, Bill, should we, just throw this out, should we as a group maybe try to hook up with them again and meet with them and kind of refresh that meeting and see what they have to say and get some answers?
We could
And
certainly,
if he
it's not
says
gonna
you're
hurt.
wasting your time, like, you know, it's kind of dormant for however many years Gary's been out of the game prior to his death, but maybe we should just meet with him and see what he has to say and see what options we have. If we don't know what the options are, we can't make an informed decision on where we want to go. He may very well say, you know. go
Well, my recollection of that conversation was something like, you guys are in a perfect body of water to do this. But he did say that he needed to bring his people in to say, this is the better place to spread shell stock, as opposed to this based on parasites, so on and so forth. So I just get the sense that they were very eager to get involved. both from the, educational point of view and from the grant writing point of view, to give us a little push. And I think you're right, we should get them back and have another conversation and see where we want to go with it.
I gathered from that conversation, we were lacking some PVC piping and a pump, and they would pretty much do the rest. Get it rolling.
Yeah.
And I said, what about specific Westport for the spat? He says, yeah, bring them up to us, we'll have them spat out under lab conditions, we'll give you you'll have native Westport if that's what you want. Because there was always not hard feelings, but question marks about the red-lipped hatchery. It wasn't a native, and it was obvious. He wants to grow, he wants the meat content, he wants the thickness of the shell. It was a different, out-of-town person.
By the way, there's a big aquaculture conference going on. I sent Jean off to Ketchum's the other day just to get me a couple of more eel cars. Actually, she came back with this. This is the East Coast Shellfish Growers Association. Imagine Carrion's part of this. And it is June 2nd and 3rd, 2024 International Aquaculture Conference to meet in Rhode Island, June 3rd to the 4th. I guess all the pros that deal with aquaculture are going to be there. Maybe we could learn something
That's a
from
place to ask questions.
place to ask questions.
Do you think, our friend from Roger Williams, do
Yeah, Roger Williams.
you think they would be there to talk to us?
I would imagine he's one of the preeminent experts, Dr. Andrew Ryan, R-H-Y-N-E. He lives in Little Compton, by the way, so he's
Yeah,
close by.
he took over from the guy who now has an aquaculture site over in Fairhaven
Yeah.
that just got shut down because of the overflow,
Oh, that's
surge
right.
over.
Yeah, I forgot about that.
So let me ask this, I'm always one to pass the buck. Would you reach out? Would we be okay having you reach out? to-
I'll do whatever you guys want to
We can
do
like last
collectively.
time, invite them down to the point.
Is
and,
the,
Have a cup of coffee.
Department of Marine Services, that building is available to do with that grow-out stuff, just the budget's not there to support it, is that?
I mean, at this point in time, I've been looking at pumps, Amazon, pretty much, just looking for a cheapy pump to run 3-4 months out of the year. This is continually, I don't know what the cost of, like, we're just saying running a sump pump 24/7 for 4 months,
We
what would
got
that
the
cost?
expert on pumps right here,
Yeah, I mean, what size pump, how many inches is it, 2 inch?
2-inch as
This
well.
guy Ryan would know all that stuff. Yeah,
Well, I
he's
think
spouting that out.
He even said at one point, yeah, we probably have a couple of pumps kicking around we can give to you, that kind of stuff.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I got pumps too. I have probably 2 inch pumps,
That's
probably
what
5
the
or 6 of
piping
them.
used to be in there, 2-inch piping,
Probably
but
5
didn't
or
have
6
enough volume of water.
What kind of cost are we looking at to run a continual
It's
pump like
expensive.
that? Like $10,000 expensive, like
To run one pump?
one pump,
figure out the amp.
24/7?
Figure out the amp hours.
24/7,
For like a month.
one pump is probably,
How many
Rough
horse are there?
Ballpark.
it's gonna be somewhere around $300 or $400 a month.
Okay.
Well, this guy was
Because
talking
it's-
solar and everything, remember?
Yeah.
I look
Yeah,
at-
Well,
I think
There's
Chris,
a lot of
Chris-
talk.
How many horsepower?
3 grand.
How many horsepower are those pumps? I mean,
Pumps are 2 horsepower, but you can also get there's also new pumps out now.
because you figure out the
Like
amp
an
hours.
LED light, for lack of a better example, where
More
the
useful.
old style used to burn a lot, and these new styles.
Right, 'cause they had brushes
They
and-
work on back pressure, and when there's more back pressure, it goes down, and when the filter gets clogged, it ramps up.
Gets a message from over there to tell this guy what
Because
to
it
do.
all depends on the strainer basket, and when the strainers get clogged, then it takes more horsepower to push water through the
Well,
strainer
we're doing a
basket.
deadlift of about 6 feet from
Yeah, that's not bad, though, 6 feet's not bad,
the lift.
yeah, that's okay.
And then
It's
it's
gonna
all,
be more-
then
it's gonna
it'll
be
be
more
all
than 6
gravity
feet.
from
Yeah.
there.
It's gonna be more than 6 feet.
Is
Yeah,
more than
it's-
6 feet to the water?
well,
Depending on the
water-
tide and the whole thing and where you need to
Low
go,
water.
because it ultimately has to come up into the keg.
Yeah,
Anything
Which is
less
like
than
the-
20
yeah.
feet really isn't a problem.
okay.
Yeah, that's perfect.
You
And
can
these are,
suck water up.
these are volume, this is like any lobster tank. This is all volume, this isn't pressure.
I mean, even if it was cost like, I'm sorry, like
Could be part of the solution
$1,500 for
for
electricity or something like that,
for
that's
the
something that we could go
oysters.
into.
If you grow
Now, if it's like
some
$5,000 to
oysters down there,
$7,000 for the year,
Spread 'em out.
let's just say
we're gonna-
I have $1,000
You
for
get
repair
decent
maintenance
size, they
for
got a
the
good shot.
boats.
But you know, Chris, we
Yeah.
talked also about somehow or another,
I know that
Getting some
half
of
a
that
million
shell
oysters
stock.
doesn't take up a lot of space
Yep.
when they're that size.
That's right.
because now that we're up into the $40,000-$50,000 range.
Sure.
On that, we're trying to figure out ways that we can, that's a whole nother story for a whole other day that we don't wanna get into. We could talk about at the shell stock meeting, but there's been some rumblings about possibly getting some of that money into a different fund
Sure.
so that it's able to be used for scholarships, able to be used for new projects like that. When you need a $3,000 or $4,000 to start a new upweller or whatever, that money can be available without taxing an already taxed shellfish department.
Could the propagation fund something like that?
Maybe.
A
And
part of it?
here's
No,
the,
not
here's
all
the
of it,
maybe.
but
I'll give you really broad strokes, basic numbers. For 5,000 bushels at $26 a bushel, this year is going to cost $130,000 just to do the 5,000 bushel shellfish relay. At which point in time, shell stock, give or take, might net 30-some thousand dollars. So we're close, but every year, the 5,000 bushels, it goes from $26 a bushel to 27 to 28. So we're already spending money that shell stock's made in just
Yeah, no, I
the relay. So we could talk about, well, maybe we only want to spend $100,000 on relay cohogs and then divert it somewhere else. That's a discussion for another time.
Yeah.
But it's just something that's on the
I think-
horizon that we need to think about, because just to maintain our basic services, the price has gone up.
But
And good things,
something's been said here a couple of times tonight, is that the only thing sustaining the river is the relays and those types of things. I think it's time to start putting something back other than what we buy here and put there to harvest. We have to come up with,
the relay's the best bang for your buck. A lot of the seeds
It
we
is.
can spend, we have spent tens and
80
twenties of thousands of dollars on seed.
80%
How does it-
mortality.
Exactly, you're throwing out the window. I mean,
Carrier
just getting to
doesn't
the
use- he
getting to the
doesn't use
point.
He doesn't use
No,
a
he
relay.
uses hybrid.
He doesn't use a relay though.
No, but he does,
But
he gets,
generates
but he
hundreds of
uses
thousands of
hybrid,
seed.
modified genetically.
I understand that.
The wild
But
stuff
he
can't handle the
still
nitrogen.
is generating a very large spat volume.
No, they don't give spat. They're neutered.
He's just buying them all?
No, they're neutered. He gets a neutered spat.
Grows them out a year and
And all they do is,
So he buys all of that spat? None of it's spat, so.
it comes from a
So
hatchery,
there's nothing going back into the river?
nothing going back in the river. Originally there was, but now they've changed it and you had the details on it. It was, I can't remember the name of it, but they did something and all the growth, none of it goes into reproduction, all it goes into shell growth.
If we're going to diversify into something that's an 80% mortality rate, do we really want to do that?
No,
So that's what we're looking at.
but see,
Not to say that that's like doom
now you're
and
getting
gloom,
at a
but
much bigger problem, the nitrogen problem, the algae blooms. There's a reason that scallops aren't growing, little necks aren't spawning.
Yeah.
You know, they
going
can
back to-
survive.
Going back to what Bill was saying, if we take a look, I mean, there's a ton of grants out there that could help us with our energy costs or whatever, especially energy costs today, green, as I hear about. Is it, this is something maybe.
Put a windmill up.
Maybe we can put a windmill up.
Put a windmill up.
Why not?
So I think our first thing to do is contact that guy, and see if we
Yeah.
can set up a meeting.
Let the
and go from
experts
there.
tell.
I can gather the information and bring it back here if
Well,
that's
we're
what.
Yeah,
still
he-
talking to him.
That's
Yeah,
what.
so basically, we've got to figure out a game plan. Where do we start?
Well, if he-
Operationally, what do we have to do?
Well, one of the things that I took away from it, he was just all giddy about the fact that
I
he
got
could
the
write
same thing. I
grants
couldn't get
everywhere.
over how excited he
And
was.
by the way, the guy lives right up on Main Road, so I mean,
Yeah,
why
he
didn't we,
wants to help.
let's get on that.
Let's see what he has to say. I have one more piece of other business. Chris, how do we update, not the rules and regs on the website, but the website itself? If you go online, you put in Shellfish Advisory Board, it's the.
oh yeah, that's I'm working with Nadine on that. That whole thing is embarrassing. what's on that website is from, what, I don't know, 10 years ago?
Price.
Oh,
More-
yeah.
more
It's
than
be-
10
yeah, it's
years.
be- oh,
It's
yeah.
more than
Oh,
10
it's,
years.
oh, there's people on that
I mean,
list
there's
that,
programs that don't exist.
oh, that's just, it's, yeah, so it,
If we're gonna direct people to go to the website.
oh, to go to the website, it's, at this point in time, it's a joke, yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah,
okay,
and I'll say,
cause that other guy's
we
not
need to
related
work on that.
That other guy's not related.
A lot of towns I see are updating their programs with grant money because municipalities aren't generating enough to keep up with the technology.
Right.
I'm just gonna, just really quick, one other business. The town clerk has been getting requests for 1 or 2 day permits. Is that something that we would entertain for a family?
We have a 2-week summer.
Yes, the people are specifically looking for like a day, like a 1-day pass.
I would say no.
I'd say no. I think
say
the
2
2-week thing addresses.
Sure, that's
Whatever.
it, yeah, that was just something that I've had several people asking and calls down to the office
Right.
and the town clerk
'Cause we-
saying, yeah, so
From the
anyway.
enforcement perspective, that could be a nightmare for you.
Oh, it's all a
You
nightmare.
don't know who's who.
How much is a 2-week license?
It's pretty good.
Well, we
Well,
know
is
that
the-
an
is the-
out-of-town family permit is $200.
And there's that the
No.
2-week one or is that?
No, that's a non-resident family shellfish
Right.
license.
What's the 2-week one?
Let's see, 14-day citizen family shellfish permit, $100.
Citizen of Massachusetts.
So let's make a
That's-
1-day license for $200.
There you go, no, that's something like that.
$100.
Yeah, to
Make it the
entertain
same
that 1-day
fee.
license,
Make
it's
it
not
the
gonna be
same
cheap.
fee. You only wanna go for a day.
I don't see that as being very feasible. I
think
think,
2
I
weeks
I
is
see it
great.
as a,
We already have enough trouble updating our books and websites, that might add.
Oh, yeah, we're trying to come out of the Stone
add
Age here.
more stuff to it, let's just stay with what we
I
have.
motion to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Yes.
All in favor?
aye.
Aye.